Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, it's QC here. Today, we're diving into a seriously intriguing My Hero Academia what-if scenario. What if Deku had time reverse Quirk? If you love AU fanfics and seeing our favorite heroes in a whole new light, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a story. Let's set a little goal. Can we get 50 likes on this video? I know this community can do it. Alright, grab your earphones and let's jump into this wild new version of Deku's journey. The night was supposed to be routine. Villain activity in the old district, just another raid for Class 1A and the pro heroes. Izuku Midoriya, known to some as Deku, ran through the crumbling alleyway with his usual anxiety flickering in his chest, boots pounding on slick asphalt. Around him, the world was chaos, shattered street lamps, the sharp tang of ozone, distant cries echoing off brick and glass. Bakugo was 2 steps ahead, of course, his gauntlets sparking as he barked orders. Move it, Deku, don't you dare fall. The rest of the squad scattered behind, Todoroki's ice-freezing villain henchmen in their tracks, Ida darting past with machine gun speed. Izuku sucked in a breath, his heart pounding for reasons he couldn't explain. Something in the air tonight felt wrong. The city itself felt tense, like the moment before a clock strikes midnight. They turned a corner and the main fight unfolded with the suddenness of a lightning strike. Shigaraki stood at the center of the chaos, arms outstretched, white hair wild, red eyes alive with that particular blend of nihilism and glee. Dust drifted from his fingertips, everything he touched decaying to ash. Beside him, Dabai's flames danced blue, a wall of fire cutting through concrete and hope. Toga laughed, leaping from shadow to shadow, blade already red. The world slowed, time stuttered. Bakugo dove, an explosion flaring in his palm. Shigaraki smiled as if he'd been waiting for this moment and let the decay bloom. Bakugo's body slammed into the villain, gauntlet meeting flesh. And then, it was over before it began. A sudden vicious blast of dust and blood. Bakugo hit the ground, unmoving. Deku screamed, the kind of sound that didn't belong in this world. He felt his mind shatter, something raw and animalistic boiling up through his veins. The world tilted. All the color drained from his vision except for the vivid red of Bakugo's blood staining the concrete. His hand trembled as he reached out, useless, powerless. But something snapped, not just inside him, around him. The world rippled, the air thickened, vibrating with invisible force. Time itself seemed to scream. Deku's fingers brushed Bakugo's skin. He didn't know what he was doing, he just wanted it to stop. He just wanted Bakugo back. No, he whispered, the word cracking reality. No, not yet, not you. The world recoiled. Bakugo's blood shimmered. The splatter on the ground began to flow backwards, drawing itself up in rivulets, retreating into his body. The wound in his chest unknitted, muscle reforming, bones sliding into place with impossible, sickening smoothness. Shigaraki stumbled backward, eyes wide, watching as Bakugo's chest rose and fell, alive. Time spun in reverse. The entire street unwound, shattered glass climbing back into broken windows, flames sucking themselves back into Dabai's palms, crumbling asphalt healing beneath their feet. The villains froze. For one perfect, terrible moment, everyone saw it, the hands of a giant, invisible clock spinning around Deku, the ticking of 1,000,000 seconds beating like war drums. Bakugo gasped, sitting up as if woken from drowning. What the hell, Deku? Deku staggered back, his eyes glowing a clockwork green. He felt every second he'd stolen, every heartbeat ripped from the jaws of fate. He was shaking, sweat pouring down his face, but he was standing. Bakugo was alive, that was all that mattered. The silence was broken by Shigaraki's ragged laugh. So, that's your new trick, huh, Midoriya? Dabai's flames sparked in nervous fingers. Even Toga looked uncertain, biting her lip, watching the restored hero as if seeing a ghost. Uraraka, somewhere behind, screamed his name. Ida raced to Bakugo's side, supporting him as he staggered up, eyes wild with disbelief. Deku turned, his gaze falling on the League of Villains. There was a coldness there now, something hard, something unyielding. He didn't feel like a hero anymore. Shigaraki took a shaky step back. You think this changes anything? You think you're a god, Midoriya? Deku's voice was eerily calm. I'm just fixing what you break. Shigaraki snarled, lunging forward, but Deku's hand flicked up, palm open, and the world twitched. Shigaraki stumbled, disoriented. The ground beneath him rewound, dragging him back several paces like a broken VHS tape, skipping backward. His shoes scuffed forward, then snapped back, leaving deep grooves in the dust. Bakugo stared white-knuckled. "Deku, what did you do?" Deku didn't answer. He felt empty, every nerve humming with power and terror. His quirk, whatever it was, wasn't one for all. It was something else, something wrong. But it worked. Bakugo was breathing. That's all that mattered. Dabai tried to torch the group, blue flames flaring up. Deku stepped between the heroes and the fire. He closed his eyes, willed the flames away. And time obeyed. The fire spiraled backward, sucked back into Dabai's hands until the villain stared at his empty palms in horror. All the smoke in the air unraveled, coiling back into the tip of Dabai's finger. The League of Villains, for the first time, looked afraid. Toga muttered, "Nope, nope, nope, nope." She vanished into the shadows, eyes wide with something that looked a lot like panic. Shigaraki tried to touch the ground, his decay quirk flaring, but wherever he placed his hand, the concrete instantly healed, as if reality itself was tired of being broken. Deku's vision blurred, a chime echoed in his ears, a clock striking some invisible hour. He felt something warm trickle down from his nose. Blood. He ignored it. Aizawa appeared at the far end of the alley, eyes blazing, scarf flying. "Midoriya, what is happening?" Deku barely heard him. The world seemed so loud now, every tick of every clock in every room, every second, every moment he'd ever lived, all spinning around him. He took a shaky step forward. His hand glowed, the mark of his quirk, a golden spiral, luminous and terrifying, etched into his palm. Shigaraki spat, "You think you're untouchable, Midoriya. You think you can play with time forever." Deku's lips twisted in something that almost wasn't a smile. "Maybe I can." The league ran. Shigaraki hesitated, glaring daggers. "You can't rewind everything, Deku. Sooner or later you'll mess up, and when you do, we'll be there." Deku's eyes burned with clockwork fire. "If you hurt anyone else, I'll undo you." Shigaraki vanished, Toga and Dabai fleeing with him, smoke trailing behind. The alley was quiet again, the only sound Bakugo's ragged breathing and the distant wail of sirens. Bakugo staggered upright, shoving Ida off. "Get off me, nerd, I'm fine." Deku managed a small, broken laugh. "Yeah, you're welcome, Kakin." Bakugo shot him a glare. "Don't get cocky, what the hell did you do to me?" Deku's smile faded. I turned back time for you, for everything here, I think." He expected Bakugo to yell, to punch him, to curse him out for meddling. Instead, Bakugo looked at him, really looked at him, and Deku saw something raw and scared in his eyes. "That's not normal, Deku." "Yeah, I know." Behind them, the rest of 1A gathered, battered but alive. Todoroki, face pale, Uraraka, eyes wide and shining. Ida, always the voice of reason, looked at Deku like he was seeing a ghost. Aizawa stalked forward, wrapping Deku's shoulder in his scarf. "You're coming with me, Midoriya." Deku didn't resist. His legs felt like rubber, his head full of clocks. His heart was still racing with panic and relief and dread. He glanced back, seeing the aftermath. The street restored, heroes and civilians unharmed, villains fled. No one else seemed to notice how reality had just been rewritten. No one except Bakugo, whose hand shook as he flexed his fingers, bloodless and whole. The ambulances arrived, sirens slicing the night. Pro-heroes flooded the street, trying to make sense of the scene. Reporters' cameras flashed. Someone pointed at Deku. "That's him. That's the hero who brought that boy back to life. He reversed time. Did you see it? I saw him glow, I swear." "Did he kill Shigaraki? Is he even human?" Deku shrank under the weight of their stares. He could feel their awe, but more than that, he felt their fear. All Might arrived, limping, battered, eyes full of terror. "Young Midoriya, what have you done?" Deku tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. Aizawa barked orders, clearing the crowd, shielding Deku from cameras as best he could. Uraraka pressed a trembling hand to his shoulder. "Izuku, are you okay?" He wanted to say yes, he wanted to believe it. Instead, he just shook his head. Later in the med bay at UA, Recovery Girl patched up the others. Deku sat on a cot, IV in his arm, head bowed. Aizawa paced the room, his face unreadable. "You're going to tell me everything, Midoriya, now." Deku's voice was small. I don't know what happened. I just wanted Bakugo to live. I reached out and in time just listened. Aizawa frowned. That's not one for all. Deku shook his head. No, it's something else. It felt like I could touch the seconds themselves, like I could pull on them, rewind them, but only if I really wanted it. Aizawa studied him, gaze sharp. You rewound time for an entire city block. That's not a normal quirk. Deku clenched his fists, staring at the golden spiral still faintly glowing in his palm. I know, I'm sorry. Aizawa's eyes softened just for a second. You saved Bakugo, you saved everyone, but you might have just painted a target on your back, Midoriya, on all of us. Deku looked up, eyes haunted. They'll come for me, won't they? Aizawa nodded. Villains, heroes, government, there are people who will want your power for themselves. People who will want to destroy you just for existing. I need you to be careful. Deku swallowed. I don't want to hurt anyone. Good. Aizawa placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. Hold on to that, but don't be naive. Power like yours, it'll change the world for better or worse. A heavy silence filled the room. Outside, the world was already buzzing with rumors. Videos of the battle were spreading across every screen, frame by frame of Bakugo dying and then undying, the alley restoring itself in impossible ways. Everyone saw it. The hero who rewound death. Somewhere far away in a darkened room, a shadowed figure watched the footage, hands steepled in the gloom. Interesting, the voice mused. The boy can rewrite fate itself. Perhaps it's time the world feared a new god. At UA, Deku lay awake, eyes fixed on the ceiling. He could still feel the hands of the clock turning inside him. He tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw Bakugo's blood on the ground and his own hand reaching through time. He wasn't sure if he was a hero or a monster. But he was sure of one thing, things would never be normal again. He rose quietly and moved to the window, staring out at the city. The lights flickered, thousands of tiny lives ticking by, seconds slipping away. His reflection stared back, haunted, tired, but burning with something new. Bakugo appeared in the doorway, wrapped in bandages, glaring as always. You awake, nerd. Deku nodded. Bakugo looked away, voice quieter than usual. Don't do that again. Deku tried to smile. Can't make any promises, Kakin. Bakugo shook his head, a hint of fear behind his bravado. You play with time, you play with fire, remember that. Deku turned, meeting Bakugo's eyes. I know. Bakugo left, footsteps echoing down the hall. Deku closed his eyes, feeling the world ticking, ticking, ticking forward. No matter what happened next, he knew there was no going back. But maybe, just maybe, he could keep moving forward. There was a clock in Izuku Midoriya's room at UA High, but he never heard it until tonight. Tick, tick, tick. Soft as a heartbeat, cruel as fate. He lay in bed, wide awake, the events of the raid replaying over and over behind his eyes, Bakugo dying, his own scream, the world shuddering backward. Every time he blinked, he saw the blood revering, the wounds sealing, the villain's terror. Every time his body remembered the feeling, raw power, electricity scraping over his nerves, something ancient and dangerous flowing through his veins. He'd reversed time. Not just for Bakugo, not just for himself. The city block, the air itself, the flow of battle. For one terrible moment, he had been a god and everyone had seen. He pressed his hands to his eyes, trying to will the memories away, but the clock kept ticking. When sleep finally found him, it was a broken, haunted thing. Dreams shattered into timelines, one where Bakugo died and never came back, one where Deku let go and time ran wild, one where Shigaraki's hand closed over his own and the world unraveled in rot and dust. He woke with a start, gasping, his heart hammered against his ribs, too fast, too loud. Something was wrong. The world felt heavier, off-kilter. He stared at the ceiling and watched the cracks shift. At first he thought it was a trick of the morning light, but as he focused, he saw the paint undo itself, chips mending, dust vanishing in reverse. The sun outside his window flickered backward, dipping below the horizon for a heartbeat before surging up again. He scrambled to the window and looked out over the UA campus. For a split second, he saw shadows where people should have been. A teacher walked one direction, shimmered, and then walked the other way, time correcting itself. Deku flinched, pressing his hand against the glass. The golden spiral on his palm was gone, but he could still feel it burning there, ghostly and hot. Someone knocked on his door. He jumped. Why, yeah. It was Aizawa, looming in the doorway, his eyes rimmed with exhaustion. Midoriya, principal wants to see you, now. Izuku threw on his uniform, hands shaking, mind spinning with 1,000 worries. Had he broken something? Had he already done damage he couldn't fix? Bakugo was in the hallway, leaning against the wall, arms crossed. His eyes flickered to Deku's, unreadable. "You look like hell, nerd." "Thanks, Kakin," Deku muttered, voice flat. Bakugo fell in beside him as they walked. "You feeling normal?" I don't know what normal is anymore." Bakugo snorted, then looked away. "Don't let M cage you." Deku looked up, surprised. Bakugo didn't meet his gaze. He just kept walking, jaw set. They reached Principal Nezu's office. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with tension. All Might was there, a shadow of his former self, arms crossed and face grim. Midnight leaned against the wall, arms folded. Vlad King, Snipe, Cementos, even Recovery Girl, all of them silent. Principal Nezu regarded Deku with curious, unsettling cheer. "Izuku Midoriya, please sit, we have much to discuss." Deku sat, wringing his hands. All Might's voice rumbled low, fear and fatherly worry tangled together. "Young Midoriya, what happened last night was unprecedented, even for you." Deku tried to explain, voice trembling. He described the sensation, reaching for time not just as an idea but as something he could touch, rewind, command. How it felt like the world was a tape and his will was the button. Principal Nezu nodded, eyes sharp, a quirk that manipulates time itself, remarkable and dangerous. Aizawa, standing at his shoulder, spoke quietly. "Midoriya claims it only worked because he wanted it badly enough, is that right?" Deku nodded. "I wasn't thinking, I just couldn't lose Kakin. I reached out and time just snapped back." Midnight's voice was sharp, almost afraid. "You rewound death, Midoriya. That's not something any hero should take lightly." Recovery Girl stepped forward, her voice gentle but firm. "Did you feel any pain afterward? Dizziness, memory loss?" Deku hesitated, then nodded. "It hurt, like I was being pulled in every direction at once. And this morning, everything feels off." Vlad King frowned. "Off how?" Deku looked down, trying to find the words. "Like realities, loose around the edges. Like if I'm not careful, I'll pull the whole world apart." A silence fell over the room. Principal Nezu tapped his paws together, eyes glittering. "Izuku, we have reason to believe your quirk has evolved, or perhaps mutated in response to extreme stress." All Might's jaw tightened. One for all was never about time. Deku nodded. "This is one for all, I still feel it, but this is different, like another quirk woke up inside me." Aizawa's gaze was piercing. "You said you felt like you could only do it because you wanted it enough. Does that mean you can do it again whenever you want?" Deku hesitated. I don't know, I'm afraid to try." Principal Nezu's tone was deceptively light. "For now, we must proceed carefully. If you feel your quirk activating, alert a teacher immediately. Understood?" Deku nodded, feeling small and scared. As the meeting ended, the staff filed out, leaving Deku and All Might alone. The silence stretched. Finally, All Might sat beside him, hands shaking. "Izuku, I've never been afraid of you before, not even when you broke your bones to save people. But this power, it frightens me." Deku looked at the floor. "Me too, All Might." All Might squeezed his shoulder. "Just promise me, whatever happens, you'll remember why you became a hero." Deku's voice was a whisper. "I promise." He left the office feeling like he was walking through someone else's dream. The world outside was buzzing. Everywhere he went, people stared, some in awe, some in fear. Whispers chased him down the halls. "That's the kid who brought Bakugo back. Did you see the video? He just waved his hand and time rewound. Do you think he could bring back anyone? He's not a hero, he's a freak." Deku tried to ignore it, but it gnawed at him. At lunch, he sat alone, poking at his food. Uraraka slid into the seat beside him, her eyes worried. "Are you okay, Deku?" He tried to smile, but it came out crooked. "I don't know." She squeezed his hand. "Everyone's talking about you. Some of the first years are scared." He nodded. "They should be." Uraraka's grip tightened. "You're still you, Deku, no matter what happens." He wanted to believe her. He really did. Later, after classes, he found himself wandering the dorms, drawn to the rooftop by instinct. The wind was sharp, the sky cloudy, storm brewing somewhere distant. Bakugo was already there, arms folded, staring out at the city. "Come to Brood too?" he asked without turning. Deku shrugged, sitting beside him. They were silent for a while, watching clouds roll over the skyline. Finally, Bakugo spoke. "You scared me last night." Deku flinched. "I scared myself." Bakugo's eyes narrowed. "Doesn't mean you're allowed to stop being a dumbass or a hero." Deku laughed bitter. "I'm not sure I can be a hero with a power like this. What if I mess up? What if I erase someone by accident?" Bakugo glared at him. "That's why you're a hero, Deku, because you worry about crap like that." Deku looked at his hands, turning them over. "It hurts, you know, using it. Feels like I'm tearing myself apart." Bakugo grunted. "Don't use it for me again, got it?" Deku smiled, small and sad. "I can't promise that." Bakugo shook his head, a half-smile ghosting his lips. "You're such a damn nerd." A shadow flickered on the rooftop door. Todoroki emerged, hair wild in the wind, face unreadable. "Midoriya, Aizawa's looking for you." Deku tensed. Did something happen? Todoroki's gaze lingered on his face. "There's a problem downtown. They want you on standby." Deku's blood ran cold. "Is it because of me?" Todoroki nodded, a sliver of sympathy in his voice. "There's already rumors. People saw what happened. Some want your help, some want you gone." Deku stood, heart pounding. "Let's go." The three of them raced down the stairs, gathering with Iida, Kirishima, and Uraraka. Aizawa met them at the front gates, his eyes hard. "There's a situation near Hasu Station. A building collapsed. Civilians are trapped." He looked at Deku, voice tight. "They want you to reverse it." Deku's chest tightened. "Can I?" Aizawa's gaze softened. "Only if it's safe, only if you want to. No one's forcing you, Midoriya." Deku swallowed, nodding. "I'll try." They arrived on scene to chaos. Police barricades, ambulances, reporters crowding the edge of disaster. A 10-story building slumped sideways, glass shattered, dust clouding the air. Civilians huddled, bloody and coughing, some screaming for help. Rescue heroes barked orders, but everyone was staring at Deku. A mother clung to a child, eyes wild. "Please, my husband, he's still inside. You can bring him back, can't you? I saw what you did on the news, please." Deku's hands shook. He took a step forward, the world narrowing to a tunnel. He reached out, fingers trembling, feeling for that place inside himself where time had broken. Nothing happened. The golden spiral didn't appear. No power, no rewinding. He forced himself to focus, remembering Bakugo, remembering the blood, the terror, the desperate need to fix things. He reached again. And suddenly he was there, standing on the knife edge of time, the world around him flickering, sound warping and stretching. The building before him stood both collapsed and whole, windows both broken and pristine. He could see the moments layered over each other like pages in a book. He reached out, hand glowing faintly. He needed the building to be whole again, to save the people inside, to fix it all. The golden spiral flared. He pressed his palm to the wall and pulled. The world groaned. Glass shards leapt off the ground, sliding up through the air, slotting neatly back into windows. Dust flowed upward, bricks reassembling, walls mending. The collapsed floors rose, steel beams fusing, cracks sealing. Screams turned into stunned silence. And then, just as suddenly, the world snapped back. Deku staggered, falling to his knees, blood dripping from his nose. His head rang like a bell, vision swimming. He could feel himself slipping, as if the earth was crumbling under his feet. He heard someone calling his name, distant and afraid. He tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't listen. Aizawa was there, grabbing him before he fell. Civilians cheered, reporters snapped photos. The mother wept, hugging her rescued husband. The world was saved for a moment. But Deku felt none of it. He could see the edges of reality fraying, shadows shivering, people flickering in and out of focus. Somewhere in the crowd, a man screamed, clutching his head. My memories are wrong. I remember dying. Was I dead? Was I?" Another woman dropped to her knees, sobbing. "My arm, it was broken, but now." Rescue heroes tried to calm them, but the panic spread. Aizawa dragged Deku back to the van. "You did good, kid, but we need to get you checked out now." Deku nodded, numb. Back at UA, Recovery Girl scolded him gently, patching up the cut on his head. "You can't keep doing this, Midoriya. Every time you pull on time, you risk tearing yourself and reality apart." Deku looked at her, eyes hollow. "What am I supposed to do then? Let people die?" She sighed, patting his hand. "You're a hero, but you're also human, remember that." He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat by his window, watching the city lights flicker, wondering how many lives he'd rewritten, how many fates he'd already broken. Downstairs, the staff argued late into the night. Some wanted to hide Deku away to keep his power secret. Others wanted to use him as a weapon to fix every mistake, to end every tragedy. He heard All Might's voice, broken and afraid. He's still a child. He needs support, not pressure. Midnight's retort, sharp as glass. He's not a child anymore, not with power like that. The arguments bled into his dreams. He saw himself at the center of a web, strings of time stretching out in all directions, each one fraying at the edges. Villains in the shadows, heroes with desperate eyes, people he'd saved and people he hadn't, each one pulling at him, wanting more. He woke with a start, sweat cold on his skin. There was a knock at his door. It was Uraraka, worry written across her face. Can't sleep either. He shook his head. She sat beside him, silent for a moment, then quietly, do you regret it, saving Bakugo? Deku shook his head, eyes shining. Never, but I'm scared, Ochako, scared of what I'll do next, scared I'll make things worse. She took his hand. We'll help you, you're not alone, Deku. He looked at her, tears threatening. What if I can't stop? What if one day I can't put things back? She hugged him tight, then we'll keep moving forward together. For the first time since the raid, Deku let himself cry. Later, alone, he stood before his mirror, studying the face that stared back. The golden spiral was gone, but he could feel it inside, a clock winding down, a power he could neither accept nor reject. He took a deep breath, steeling himself. No matter how heavy the price, he was a hero. And heroes, real heroes, never ran from their own power. But as the night deepened and the world outside ticked on, Deku couldn't help but wonder. If time itself could be undone, what about the mistakes he hadn't made yet? The city buzzed with tension, headlines screaming from every screen, every phone, every billboard. The Clockwork Reaper, is he hero or monster? Midoro's power, miracle or menace? I remember dying, Citizens speak out. Everywhere Deku went, he felt it. The stares, the whispers, the hush that fell when he entered a room as if he carried a storm in his shadow. He tried to act normal, attended classes, trained with his friends, smiled at his mother on video calls, but every moment was haunted by the pressure of eyes, hero society, the public, villains, even his friends. In the weeks since the building collapse, life at UA had changed. He felt the distance between him and his classmates widening with every step, a glass wall none of them could break through. He saw it in how Ida fumbled for words around him, how Kirishima's enthusiasm faltered, how even Todoroki sometimes looked away, brow furrowed as if staring into a future he couldn't see. Bakugo was the only one who acted normal, or tried to, by bullying him, shouting, making noise like he could scare the tension away by sheer force of will. But even Bakugo hesitated some days. It was late afternoon when it happened. The classroom, thick with the golden light of sunset, was half empty. Aizawa lectured at the front, dry as ever, but nobody was really listening. Midoriya was doodling in his notes, writing the words rewind and reverse over and over when his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You can't fix anything, right? Meet old train yard, if you want to prove her a hero. He stared at it, fingers trembling. He was used to threats. After the building, there had been hundreds of messages, some begging, some cursing, some even threatening his life, but this felt different, like a test. He showed it to Aizawa after class. Aizawa's eyes narrowed, trap or a cry for help, either way you're not going alone. So the plan was set. Nightfall, the old train yard. Deku, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Uraraka with Aizawa and a squad of heroes nearby, just in case. The sun was setting by the time they arrived. Rusting train cars sat silent in the gloom, weeds choking the gravel, graffiti scrawled over every flat surface. Wind howled between the carriages, bringing the sour stench of old metal. Stay sharp, Bakugo muttered, cracking his knuckles. Deku nodded, feeling that weird itch in his palms, the sense that something was about to go very, very wrong. They moved as a unit, shadows long, senses straining. A figure stepped from the darkness. He was tall, draped in a coat stitched with clock faces, each frozen at a different hour. His hair was pure white, his eyes a mirrored silver that reflected the world upside down. He grinned, and every tooth looked sharp. Ah, the infamous Midoriya, the timebreaker himself. The man bowed low. You may call me Chronostasis, or if you like, your biggest fan. Bakugo snorted, another freak. Chronostasis' eyes flicked to Bakugo, then back to Deku. I've come with a challenge, Midoriya. You want to be a hero? Prove it. There are bombs planted across the train yard, each set to detonate in 5 minutes. Can you save everyone, or will you choose who gets to live and who gets rewound? Deku's blood turned to ice. You're putting innocent people in danger just to test me. Chronostasis grinned. Isn't that what you do every day? Play with time, play with lives? I wonder what's the limit? How many times can you reverse a death before it stops meaning anything? Bakugo lunged forward, explosions cracking in his palm, but Chronostasis simply sidestepped, as if he knew exactly where Bakugo would be. You have 5 minutes, hero, Chronostasis called, vanishing into the shadows. Tick-tock. Alarms blared to life. From the windows of abandoned train cars, terrified faces stared back, hostages. The countdown began, red numbers blinking on each bomb, scattered throughout the maze of metal and glass. Ida's voice crackled in Deku's earpiece. We've got 30 hostages, 4 bombs confirmed. We'll try to defuse, but Midoriya, if you can use your quirk. Deku didn't hesitate. He sprinted forward, heart pounding, mind racing. He could feel the seconds slipping through his fingers. Todoroki and Uraraka split off, searching for hostages. Bakugo ran with Deku, blowing open locked doors, shouting for people to get down, get out. They found the first bomb under a pile of debris, red timer blinking down, 2:58. Deku pressed his hand to the device. He tried to want the bomb to be harmless, to never have been armed, to never have been made. The golden spiral shimmered on his palm. He focused, heart hammering, come on, come on. Time warped, the bomb trembled, then the casing unbolted itself, wires unthreading, timer spinning backward to 0. The digital screen blinked, then died. He let out a breath, knees shaking. Deku, Bakugo barked, you good? Deku nodded, fighting to stand. Yeah, 1 down. They sprinted for the next. Every step, Deku felt the weight, the expectation that he could fix it all, save everyone, reverse every mistake. But it was getting harder, each rewind left him weaker, the world blurrier. Uraraka's voice in his ear, I've got a group of kids in car 6. The bomb's here, timer's faster than before. Hold on, Deku raced across the gravel, Bakugo at his heels. They burst into car 6, Uraraka hovering a cluster of terrified kids near the ceiling, the bomb below, timer already at 1:01. Deku slid to his knees, slamming his hand onto the bomb. Please, please, please. The spiral flickered, this time it burned hot, sharp, like holding a live wire. He grit his teeth and pulled. Time stuttered. The bomb's timer flickered, but instead of rewinding, it sped up 30 seconds, 25:20. No, no, no. Bakugo cursed, launching a mini explosion at the bomb, hopping to blast it outside. It skittered to the far end of the car, timer at 15. Deku lunged after it, ignoring the pain in his head, grabbed it with both hands, and willed time to stop. For a single, breathless instant, the world froze. Sound cut out, color faded, even the wind held its breath. Deku hung in that empty place, suspended between moments. Then with a scream of effort, he pushed time backward hard. The timer spun wildly, numbers blurring. The bomb disassembled itself in reverse, its pieces scattering across the floor. Time snapped back, Deku crumpled, vision swimming, the spiral on his palm burning like fire. Uraraka landed beside him, grabbing his arm. Deku, Deku, can you hear me? He nodded, dizzy, the world spinning. Yeah, I'm okay. Bakugo helped him to his feet. Don't you dare pass out now, nerd. Ida's voice crackled in. One more bomb, last car, timer's erratic, countdowns not stable. Deku and Bakugo raced for the last car. As they ran, Chronostasis' voice echoed from the shadows. You're amazing, Midoriya, but how much more can you do? How many timelines will you break to save a single life? Deku ignored him, burst into the final car. The last bomb was strapped to a hostage, a boy no older than Deku himself, shaking, tears streaming down his face. The timer flashed, 0:30. Bakugo swore, we can't blast it too close to the kid. Deku fell to his knees, grabbing the boy's trembling hands. "It's okay, I'm going to save you, I promise." The boy whimpered, "Are you the hero who can turn back time?" Deku forced a smile. "Yeah, I am." He pressed both hands to the bomb, closed his eyes, and reached deeper than ever before. Into the hurt, the hope, the desperation. He wanted with every fiber of his being for this boy to live, for this bomb to be nothing, to have never existed. The spiral exploded with light. Deku screamed as pain shot up his arms into his skull. For a split second, he felt the fabric of the world tearing, felt the possibility of undoing not just the bomb, but the boy himself. No, not him, just the bomb, just the bomb. He focused, pouring every ounce of will into the device. Time unraveled. The bomb shivered, then faded piece by piece, until it was gone, never made, never armed, never a threat. Deku collapsed, eyes rolling back, darkness closing in. He woke to chaos, sirens shouting, Bakugo shaking his shoulder. "Deku, or Deku, wake up, damn it." Deku blinked, head pounding. "Did I?" Bakugo grinned, wild and relieved. "You did it, nerd, all the bombs gone, hostages alive, even you." Deku tried to smile, but his vision swam. Chronostasis appeared in the doorway, slow clapping. "Bravo, hero, but tell me, how do you know you saved them? Maybe in another timeline they all died, maybe you're just patching over cracks in the world." Deku struggled to sit up. "You put lives at risk just to test me. Why?" Chronostasis' eyes were cold. "Because power like yours shouldn't exist. You're a paradox, Midoriya, a living error, and errors must be corrected." He raised a device, a gun shaped like an hourglass, and fired. A wave of energy smashed into Deku, pinning him to the wall. The world twisted, colors inverting, sound warping. Bakugo roared, launching himself at Chronostasis, explosions cracking the air. Todoroki and Uraraka joined the fight, ice and gravity battering the villain. Deku fought the wave, felt time unraveling around him. For a heartbeat, he saw himself dead, alive, everywhere, nowhere. He could feel all the timelines he'd undone, all the lives he'd changed. He reached for his quirk, but it sputtered, drained, exhausted. Chronostasis sneered, "You can't always fix your mistakes, Midoriya. Sometimes time bites back." With a flick of his wrist, Chronostasis vanished, fading into the echoes of the yard. The energy wave dropped and Deku slumped, gasping. Aizawa and the heroes swarmed in, rounding up hostages, searching for more threats. Bakugo knelt beside Deku. "You with me?" Deku nodded, too tired to speak. They rode back to UA in silence, the city flashing by, the sky heavy with storm clouds. Deku stared out the window, feeling every second crawl across his skin. Later, in the nurse's office, recovery girl scolded him gently. "You're pushing yourself too hard. Every time you pull on time, you risk more than just your health. The world can only take so much bending before it breaks." Deku nodded, eyes hollow. "I had to save them if I hadn't." She shushed him, patting his arm. "That's the problem with power like yours. The world will always ask for more, but you have limits, child, and so does reality." After she left, Deku sat alone, staring at the ceiling. He could feel it, the fracture points in the world, places where his rewinds had left scars, memories that didn't line up, people who remembered things differently, places that looked wrong somehow. He pulled out his notebook, scribbling observations. Symptoms of quirk overuse. Nosebleeds. Headaches. Timeline ghost, seeing people out of place. Reality glitches, objects flickering, repeating. Emotional instability. He bit his lip, wondering how much longer he could keep this up. His phone buzzed, another message, another plea. "My daughter, she died last year. Can you bring her back, please?" He stared at the screen, hands shaking. Downstairs, the rest of Class 1A gathered in the lounge. The room was tense, quiet. Todoroki broke the silence. "You saved those people today, Midoriya. You did what none of us could." Bakugo snorted. "Doesn't mean he should keep doing it." Ida looked troubled. "We rely on Midoriya too much. It's not fair to him or to reality." Uraraka reached for his hand. "We're with you, Deku, no matter what." He managed to smile, but inside he was unraveling. Aizawa entered, looking more tired than usual. "Midoriya, Principal Nezu wants to see you, again." Deku trudged to the office, dread pooling in his gut. Nezu was waiting, bright-eyed as always. Izuku, you saved lives tonight, but you also revealed something troubling. Chronostasis isn't alone, there are others, villains and heroes alike, all obsessed with your power. Deku swallowed. What do I do? Nezu's voice was gentle but firm. You must learn to control it, to set limits, and above all to remember you are not the world's timekeeper, you are its protector. Deku nodded, heart heavy. He left the office and wandered outside into the cold night air. The city lights glittered below, every window a life he could save or ruin. He closed his eyes, listening to the ticking of 1,000 clocks. One thought echoed louder than the rest. How many more times could he save the world before time itself turned against him? Rain hammered Tokyo all night, drumming on the windows of UA High. Inside, Izuku Midoriya sat alone at his desk, unable to sleep, the city's glow filtering through the water-streaked glass. The digital clock on his nightstand blinked, 2:11 a.m. Each red digit felt like an accusation, each tick a reminder of everything he'd undone. He kept thinking about the message from earlier. And my daughter, she died last year, can you bring her back, please? It haunted him. In the echoing silence, he couldn't help but wonder, could he, if he tried hard enough, could he undo not just wounds and disasters, but the past? Could he make the world right again for everyone? But every time he touched the edges of that power, reality seemed to fray, people flickered, memories stuttered, pain clung to him long after the wounds had closed. Recovery Girl's warnings echoed, you're only human, and so is the world. Deku shivered, clutching his knees to his chest. He should be asleep, but all he could think about was the person he'd never been able to save. The one person who was always missing from every picture, every school event, every quiet dinner at home. His father. He remembered being small, asking Inko where his dad was. Working overseas, she'd always say, but her smile would falter, her eyes would darken. No phone calls, no letters, no visits, just silence. Deku learned to stop asking. He learned to fill the empty space with hope, then with dreams of being a hero. But now, sitting in the dark with power burning inside him like a second heartbeat, he couldn't stop thinking, if I can turn back time, why can't I bring Dad home? Why can't I fix what I lost? The storm raged outside. In the flash of lightning, he made his decision. He scribbled a note for Aizawa and slid out into the hall, hoodie up, sneakers silent on the tiles. He slipped past the security cameras as usual. Hatsume's gadgets provided a handy distraction, and found himself outside, rain soaking him to the bone. The world was hushed, washed clean, as if waiting for him to make a mistake. He didn't care. He ran. He reached his childhood apartment before dawn, breath ragged, heart pounding with fear and anticipation. The building looked the same, maybe a little older, maybe a little smaller. He pressed the buzzer. Inko answered, worry lines deepened by years of single motherhood. Izuku, what are you doing here? It's the middle of the night. He hugged her, soaking her nightgown, tears lost in the rain. Mom, can I ask you something? His voice shook. About Dad. She froze, hands trembling in his hair. Izuku, why now? He pulled away, looking at her with new eyes, eyes that had seen time itself bend and break. If I could bring him back, if I could make it so he never left, would you want that? Inko's face twisted with pain. Izuku, you can't. Some things you just can't. But what if I could? His voice was raw, desperate. I'm scared, Mom. I keep fixing things for everyone else, but I can't fix us. I can't fix you. I can't fix me. She took his face in her hands, gentle but unyielding. I don't want you to fix me, Izuku. I want you to live. Don't you dare use your power on me or on him. He shook his head, rain mingling with tears. Why not? What if I could make it all better? She closed her eyes, shaking. Because you can't. Because even if you could, it wouldn't be real. The past is gone, Izuku. Let it go, please. But he couldn't, not yet. He left her at the door, heart pounding, hands shaking. He didn't go home. Instead, he wandered the city, letting the rain wash away his fear. He found himself at the playground he used to haunt as a kid, the slide rusted, the swings creaking in the wind. He stared at the empty space beside the slide, where his dad used to not stand, and clenched his fists. He reached deep past the pain, past the doubt, searching for that place inside himself where time pulsed and bled. Let me see him just once, let me fix this, let me fix me. The world responded, reality shivered. His quirk exploded to life, a golden spiral blazing on his palm, brighter than ever before. For a split second, he could see all the moments he'd lost, birthdays, dinners, bedtime stories that never happened. He reached out, desperate, and pulled. The playground blurred, the world spinning in reverse. The swing creaked backward, chains untwisting. The sun rose, then set, then rose again, colors blurring at the edges. Deku saw himself, smaller, rounder, hopeful, running across the grass, a woman's laughter on the wind. He saw his mother, younger, happier. And beside her, a shadow, a man with dark hair and tired eyes, always standing just out of reach. Deku ran to him, heart hammering. "Dad," he shouted, the word tearing from his throat. The man turned, face flickering, unsteady, like a memory on old film. Who are you?" the man asked, voice thin and distant. Deku reached for him, but his fingers passed through air. The world wavered, time shuddering. "Please," Deku begged, "just stay, just once, let me have this." His father's face blurred, shifting between smiles and frowns, anger and sadness, love and loss. The world cracked around him, colors flickering, sounds stretching, the air humming with danger. A voice, not his own, not his father's, whispered in his ear. "You cannot undo what was never done. You cannot claim what was never yours." Deku fell to his knees, clutching his head. The spiral on his palm spun wildly, growing hotter, searing his skin. "Let go," the voice hissed, "or you'll lose everything." He tried to pull back, but the power fought him, dragging him deeper. His memories warped, his childhood rewriting itself before his eyes. One moment, his father was there, laughing and pushing him on the swing. The next, he was gone, replaced by emptiness. Then suddenly Deku was an only child again, but now the faces around him blurred, classmates becoming strangers, UA dissolving into fog. His whole self felt like it was being erased, line by line. "No," he screamed, tears streaming down his face. "I want to go back, I want it to stop." But time didn't listen, not this time. Suddenly, he was falling, plummeting through moments, through memories, through everything he'd ever been. He saw flashes of Bakugo, Uraraka, All Might, his mother, each face flickering in and out of existence. He clung to them, desperate, terrified. "You're going to lose them all. The more you change, the less you remain." A voice pierced the storm, a voice he knew, warm and steady. "Deku, come back, please." It was Uraraka. He reached for her, her hand the only solid thing in a world gone mad. He grabbed on and reality snapped back. He woke to daylight, sprawled on the playground grass, the rain gone, the sun weak in the early morning sky. Uraraka knelt beside him, eyes red and worried. Bakugo hovered a few steps back, arms folded, scowling fiercely, and Todoroki crouched nearby, silent as snow. Deku blinked, groggy, throat raw. What happened? Uraraka hugged him, trembling. "You scared us. You vanished in the middle of the night. I tracked your phone here. You were just screaming." Bakugo scowled. "You idiot. You tried to time warp your own life, didn't you?" Deku nodded, the memory sharp and aching. "I tried to bring my dad back. I thought if I could just fix one thing for me, everything would be okay." Todoroki's voice was soft, distant. "Did it work?" Deku shook his head. "No, I almost lost myself. It's like the world was telling me some things can't be undone, some things never were." Bakugo snorted, but there was no heat in it. "Told you, power like yours isn't for fixing your own problems, it's for everyone else, that's the curse." Deku managed a weak smile. "Guess you're right, Kakin." Uraraka squeezed his hand. "We're here, you don't have to carry this alone." He nodded, grateful, but the weight inside him didn't ease. They helped him up, guiding him back through the waking city, the world brighter but no less haunted. At home, Inko waited on the steps, eyes swollen from crying. She hugged him so tightly he could hardly breathe. "Don't ever do that again," she whispered. "I'm sorry, Mom." He meant it. The next day at UA, the consequences of his actions became clear. He walked the halls in a daze, memories flickering at the edges, faces he didn't recognize, teachers calling him by the wrong name, moments that didn't quite fit. The world had shifted just a little. Some classmates looked at him twice, puzzled, as if trying to place a face in a crowd. The photographs on the dorm wall changed. In some, he stood with friends, in others, he was alone. He wondered how much more the world could take. Aizawa called him to the teacher's lounge, eyes narrowed, voice tight. "Midoriya, you crossed a line last night." Deku flinched, shame burning in his chest. "I know, I'm sorry, I just..." Aizawa held up a hand. "No excuses, I get it, loss hurts, but you can't use your quirk to rewrite your own life, that way leads to disaster." Deku nodded, barely breathing. Aizawa's voice softened. "We all have scars, Midoriya. Don't try to erase yours, learn from them." He left the office, head down, heart heavy. That night, as the rain cleared, Deku sat on the UA rooftop, legs dangling over the edge. The city sparkled below, endless and untouchable. Todoroki joined him, silent as always. After a long moment, he spoke. "My mother left when I was a kid. I used to wish I could go back, stop her from leaving, fix my family. But every time I imagined it, it felt wrong, like I'd lose the person I became." Deku nodded, voice thin. "I almost lost myself last night." Todoroki looked at him, eyes thoughtful. "Maybe that's the price of power, Deku, knowing what you could fix but choosing not to." They sat in silence, watching the stars. A cold wind blew and Deku shivered. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked quietly. Todoroki's answer was soft but certain. "Sometimes, but I keep moving forward. That's what makes us heroes." Days passed, but the memory lingered. Deku's quirk felt different now, slower to respond, heavier, as if reality itself was wary of him. He practiced with the teachers, learning to control the urge to reach for what was lost. The nightmares lessened, but the ache remained. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Inko called him. Her voice was gentle, steady. "Izuku, I'm proud of you, not because you can turn back time, but because you know when not to." He smiled, tears bright in his eyes. "Thanks, Mom." He hung up, staring at the city, heart lighter than it had been in days. He still missed his father, he always would, but he knew now some losses couldn't be reversed, some wounds had to heal the old-fashioned way. As he turned away from the window, the spiral on his palm shimmered, faint but steady, not a weapon, not a curse. A reminder. No matter how much he wished otherwise, he couldn't change his past, but he could choose what kind of hero he'd be from now on. And this time, he would not run from himself. The world was watching. Deku felt it every time he turned on the news, every time he checked his phone, every time he walked down the halls of UA High. His face was everywhere, on magazine covers, on live streams, on grainy, shaky footage of the building he'd restored and the train yard he'd saved. It was supposed to be the spotlight every hero dreamed of, but this light was cold and sharp and blinding. Half the world called him the Clockwork Reaper, a miracle in green, the hero who could not only fight fate but undo it. The other half whispered in dread, warning that a quirk that could reverse death was a quirk that could break the world. It didn't take long for the Hero Commission to take notice. In their shining headquarters, dozens of city blocks from UA, men and women in sharp suits argued behind closed doors. The newscasters speculated every night. Should this power be used for the greater good? Should it be contained or destroyed? Could Midoriya Izuku become the world's greatest hero or its first living catastrophe? The first real blow came during a quiet afternoon class. The students of 1A were halfway through a lesson on quirk ethics, a subject that suddenly felt less theoretical than ever when Principal Nezu appeared in the doorway, flanked by two stern-looking adults in government uniforms. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "Principal." Nezu bowed, smile just a bit too sharp. "I apologize for the interruption. Izuku Midoriya, you're wanted in my office, immediately." The government agent stood, waiting, unsmiling. Deku's pulse skipped, but he nodded, trying to keep his hands from shaking. He tried to meet his friend's eyes, Uraraka, Todoroki, Ida, Bakugo, but all he saw were looks of worry and fear. The walk to the office felt endless. Each step was muffled, heavy, like he was walking underwater. Inside, the room was crowded. Nezu behind his desk, Aizawa close at Deku's side, the two agents standing at attention, and, impossibly, Endeavor, the new #1 hero, his massive arms folded across his chest, eyes like smoldering coals. Deku bowed. "Sir Principal, I." Endeavor cut him off with a single look. "Sit." Deku sat. The taller of the two agents, a man with close-cropped hair and a gaze as cold as winter, spoke first. "Midoriya Izuku, you are here as a matter of national security. Do you understand?" Deku swallowed. "Yes, sir." The second agent, a woman with a scar along her jaw, spoke. "Your actions in the past weeks have saved many lives. You've also caused disturbances, paradox events, memory discrepancies. The Hero Commission wants to know, can your quirk be controlled?" Aizawa bristled. "He's a student, not a weapon." The man ignored him. "We've read your files. Multiple incidents involving large-scale time manipulation. Casualties averted, disasters reversed, but there are consequences. Reality is fracturing." Deku's hands trembled in his lap. I know, I'm trying to control it. I never meant to cause harm." Endeavor leaned forward, his voice low and rough. "Intentions aren't enough, Midoriya. Heroes don't get to choose the cost of their power. The world decides, and right now, the world is terrified." Nezu's smile never wavered. "We must consider all possibilities. Some members of the commission believe your quirk should be sealed, for your safety and ours." Aizawa's scarf tightened unconsciously. "There's no precedent for sealing a quirk in a minor, Principal." The woman agent's eyes flickered. Desperate times erase her head. Deku stared at his hands. "What are you asking me to do?" The man fixed him with a steely gaze. "For now, you are to submit to regular evaluation by Hero Commission doctors and quirk analysts. You will be restricted from field work. If your quirk activates again, outside strict supervision, we will act." Deku's throat was tight. "Act how?" The woman's smile was cold. "Quirk suppression, detention, or, if necessary, erasure." A silence fell. Deku's breath stuttered. Aizawa spoke, his voice cold and clear. "You'll have to go through me." Endeavor grunted, half approval, half warning. "The world's changing, Midoriya. Power like yours, heroes and villains alike will want it. Protect yourself. Don't give them a reason to make you the enemy." Nezu nodded, eyes deep and ancient. "Do not forget, Izuku, your choices matter, perhaps more than any hero before you." The meeting ended as abruptly as it began. The agents swept out, Endeavor looming in the doorway a moment longer. He met Deku's eyes, not with anger, but with something that almost looked like pity. Then he was gone. Deku slumped in his seat, shaking. "They're afraid of me." Aizawa's hand was warm on his shoulder. "Good, let them be afraid. That's better than them trying to use you." Nezu's gaze was unreadable. "But beware, Izuku. Fear is a hungry thing. If you feed it, it grows." Word spread quickly. Before the day was out, rumors flooded Midoriya was being monitored, restricted, controlled. Some students whispered about his power with awe, others with suspicion. At lunch, he found himself sitting alone again, picking at a plate of food he didn't remember ordering. Uraraka appeared, sliding into the seat across from him, anger and worry warring in her eyes. "You okay?" she whispered. He shook his head. "They want to lock me up, or worse." She reached for his hand. "They can't, we won't let them." He managed a weak smile. "I don't want to hurt anyone, Achako, but I'm starting to think maybe I already have. Maybe just having this quirk is dangerous." She shook her head fiercely. "You saved lives, mine, Bakugo's, dozens of others. That's not something to be afraid of." But he could see the doubt in her eyes, as if she too wondered where the line was and how close Deku was to crossing it. Across the cafeteria, Bakugo was causing his usual chaos, but every so often his eyes found Deku's, wary and protective. Todoroki joined them, sliding into the seat beside Uraraka. He was quiet, thoughtful. "My father called last night," he said softly. "He said you should stay away from field work, that your quirk could be too much for anyone to handle." Deku swallowed. "I never asked for this." Todoroki's eyes softened. "Neither did I." That night, UA held an emergency staff meeting. The teachers argued deep into the night. Midnight, voice rising, demanded protection for Deku. Snipe worried about the legal implications. Vlad King thought the commission was right, maybe the power was too great. Recovery Girl worried for Deku's health. Present Mike shouted at anyone who'd listen that nobody gets to put a kid in a box. Aizawa listened, silent and grim. All Might arrived late, out of breath, face lined with concern. "He's a hero, he saved people. I will not let the commission decide his fate." Nezu watched it all, eyes flickering. When the meeting ended, the staff were exhausted, divided. Aizawa found Deku in the dorm common room, alone with his notebook. "Midoriya, come with me." He led Deku to his office, closed the door, and sat across from him. For a long time, he said nothing. Finally, he spoke. "Do you want to keep being a hero?" Deku didn't hesitate. "Yes." Aizawa nodded. "Then you have to be smarter than them. Don't give them an excuse. Stay in control. Practice. Know your limits." Deku looked up, hope flickering. "Will you help me?" Aizawa's gaze was unwavering. "Always." The next morning, the school buzzed with something new: protesters outside the gates. Some carried signs, "Let heroes be heroes," others, "No more paradoxes, seal the Clockwork Reaper." Helicopters hovered above, news crews scrambled for shots. It was chaos. Class 1A peered through the windows, fear and confusion mingling. Mina frowned, they're protesting Deku. Takami's voice was grave. Light breeds shadow, power breeds fear. Kaminari tried to lighten the mood. Well, at least he's not boring, right? Bakugo glared at him, then stomped off to the gym, fists clenched. Later in the gym, Deku trained alone, pounding punching bags until his knuckles bled. Every strike echoed his thoughts. I can't let them control me. I can't let myself lose control. Bakugo found him scowling. You hiding in here, nerd? Deku shrugged, just thinking. Bakugo punched the bag, sending it flying. Stop thinking, start fighting, that's what you're good at. Deku smiled, faint but real. I'm scared, Kakin. Bakugo's answer was a snort. You should be, but you've got us, and if the commission comes, we'll blow their damn doors off. Deku laughed for the first time in days. That night he received a message on his phone, anonymous, encrypted. There are people who want to use you, Midoriya, but there are also people who want to help. Meet at the East Wall, midnight. He hesitated only a moment, then he went. Waiting for him in the shadows were three figures: a tall woman in a black cloak, a man with familiar green hair slicked back, and shockingly Hawks, the number 2 hero. Hawks grinned. Hey, problem child, thought you could use a little backup. Deku gaped, why are you? The woman pulled back her hood, revealing sharp eyes and a fierce, familiar smile. We're vigilantes, Midoriya. We don't answer to the commission, we answer to the people. You're not alone in this fight. The green-haired man nodded, voice steady. There's a network of us heroes, ex-heroes, people who don't want to see society eat its own. If the commission tries to cage you, we'll get you out. Hawks winked, his wings rustling. Besides, anyone who can mess with time is too interesting to let go to waste. Deku felt something unfurl in his chest, hope bright and dangerous. Thank you, he whispered. The woman squeezed his shoulder. Just remember, Midoriya, power is only as dangerous as the hands that wield it. Don't let them decide what kind of hero you'll be. He nodded, heart pounding with resolve. In the weeks that followed, society's divide only grew. The commission ramped up its efforts, mandatory check-ins, endless tests, always watching. Some heroes supported Deku, others kept their distance. Villains took notice too, new threats rose, each more desperate, each more eager to test the boy who could undo fate. But Deku trained harder than ever, surrounded by friends who believed in him, by teachers who pushed him, by vigilantes who watched from the shadows. He learned to focus his quirks, small rewinds, precise, controlled. He learned that sometimes the most heroic thing he could do was not to act, not to fix every problem. He learned that hero society was fragile and that he might be the one who broke it or the one who held it together. One stormy night, as thunder rolled across the city, Deku stood on the UA roof, watching lightning fork through the sky. Aizawa joined him, silent as always. You're doing better, the teacher said quietly. Deku nodded, but the world's getting worse. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. That's how it goes. Heroes aren't here to fix everything. We're here to make sure things don't fall apart. Deku looked at his hands, the golden spiral faint but steady. I don't know if I can do it. Aizawa squeezed his shoulder. Then let us help. That's what makes you a hero, Midoriya, not the power, the people you fight for, the people who fight with you. Deku smiled, the storm raging inside him quieting just a little. He didn't know what the future would bring or what lines he'd have to cross, but for the first time since his quirk awakened, he felt like he could face whatever came next. Hero society was divided. But Izuku Midoriya, the boy who broke fate, would not break. Not yet. The threat arrived like a whisper at first. A rumor, a string of disappearances, a strange blip in the news: pro-hero Eraserhead fails to erase villain, Quirk for first time on record. A week later, a group of seasoned heroes vanished in the field, their last radio transmission garbled by static, one word recurring: stuck. Then in the heart of Shibuya, time itself broke. Deku watched the footage on the UA Rec Room's big screen, surrounded by his classmates and a tense Aizawa. Security cam, crowds mid-crosswalk, frozen in place as if caught in a photograph, except for one woman in a white coat moving between the motionless, her hair like a waterfall of silver, hands trailing gold sparks in the still air. She reached out to a hero, Mirko, caught mid-leap, and touched her shoulder. The hero flickered, her image splitting in two, one copy staggering forward, the other flickering out of existence like a candle snuffed. The woman looked into the nearest camera, grinned, and blew a kiss. The screen cut to static. Mina swallowed hard. Is this your fault, Deku? Deku didn't answer, but his hands were fists, knuckles white, the spiral on his palm burning even when he kept it hidden. Todoroki's voice was cool and level. She's using your power or something like it. Bakugo snorted, but for once there was no fire in it. Just means we find her and blow her to hell. Aizawa's phone rang, slicing the tension. He answered, listening, face growing more grim by the second. He ended the call with a sigh. Emergency meeting, everyone stay here. Midoriya, Principal Nezu wants you now. Deku nodded, grabbed his notebook and followed. The conference room was packed, pro-heroes, UA staff, even a few suited agents from the commission. Nezu sat at the head of the table, paws folded, eyes intent. On the screen behind him, security footage looped. The white-haired woman freezing time, undoing damage, stepping through the chaos with utter confidence. Nezu's voice was solemn. Japan faces a new threat, a time-based quirk as powerful as Midoriya's, if not more so. We've seen her reverse injuries, freeze heroes, erase evidence. Witnesses call her the Timebreaker. A hushed silence. All Might, shadows deep under his eyes, spoke quietly. Can she undo what Deku does? A suited agent replied, it appears so. She's already erased several of Midoriya's repairs. In Shibuya, a building you restored, she rewound it but stopped partway, left it glitched. Recovery Girl shook her head. If these powers clash, reality could be torn apart. Deku finally spoke, voice shaky but determined. Has she killed anyone? Nezu's eyes glimmered. Not yet, but she's left heroes stuck in time, unable to move. Some may never recover. Aizawa fixed Deku with a hard stare. You're not facing her alone. Deku nodded, but something inside him, the core of his new quirk, was already stirring, bristling, like recognizing, she's not just a villain, she's a mirror, she's what I could become. Nezu continued, she sent a message, she wants to meet, she requested you, Midoriya, alone. Gasps around the room, Deku's heart pounded. Why? Aizawa's frown deepened. She's testing you, she wants to see if she's stronger. Deku stood, notebook clutched in trembling hands. Then I'll go, but not alone. All Might started to protest, but Deku held up a hand. I won't risk anyone, I'll face her, but you'll all be close. If things go wrong, undo it. Nezu nodded once. Be careful, Izuku, she's dangerous and unpredictable. The meeting spot was a rooftop in Harajuku, all neon and wind and distant city noise. Deku stood alone at the edge, heart thundering, every muscle tight. A shimmer, then she appeared, a young woman, white-haired, eyes like fractured glass. Her smile was sharp, a knife's edge of delight and menace. Hello, Izuku Midoriya, the boy who thinks he can fix the world. Deku tensed, who are you? She bowed, mocking, my name is Kyoko, but you may call me Timebreaker. I suppose you're wondering what I want. Deku braced himself, you've been undoing my work, hurting heroes, why? Kyoko's laugh was musical, but wrong, like a lullaby played in reverse. Because you're dangerous, Izuku, you think you can fix everything. But time isn't meant to be mended. It's meant to flow, to break, to move on. You're a splinter in the river. I'm here to pluck you out. She took a step forward, the air warping around her. Deku's breath caught, time slowed, his heart thudding like a drum. You're like me, she whispered, but you're still soft, still afraid. I'm here to show you what you could be. She snapped her fingers. The world shattered. Time bled in every direction, colors stretched, sounds warped, the city flickered between day and night in the blink of an eye. Deku stumbled, clutching his head. He saw himself 10, 12, 16 dozens of Dekus blinking in and out of existence, each living a different timeline. Kyoko moved through them, graceful, untouched. She reached for Deku's shoulder, he dodged barely, the contact sending a shockwave through his nerves. You're not used to fighting in the cracks, she murmured. Let me teach you. She lashed out. Deku tried to rewind, but Kyoko's power met his, canceling his effect, warping it, snapping it back. He gasped, feeling his quirk stall for the first time ever. No matter how he tried to grasp the spiral inside himself, it kept slipping from his grip. Kyoko smiled, Predator's delight. See, you're not alone, you're not even unique. Time is bigger than you, Izuku. She drove a fist into his gut, time compressed, the pain layered over itself, every bruise and ache he'd ever felt blooming at once. Deku dropped to his knees, gasping. Kyoko crouched, eyes inches from his. I'm not here to kill you, Midoriya, I'm here to wake you up. Heroes aren't meant to be gods, and gods always fall. He managed a weak punch, time sparking around his fist. She caught it, reversed it, and his own blow landed against his face. Blood spattered the roof. He reeled, barely able to breathe. Kyoko stood, stretching. Fight harder, or I'll start rewinding people you love. Deku's rage flared, the spiral pulsing with new heat. I won't let you hurt them, he growled. She smiled, prove it. He lunged, this time letting his power explode. The world warped, timelines branching, possibilities fracturing. Every time she dodged, he split the moment, giving himself another chance. 3 Dekus attacked at once, and one finally landed a blow. Kyoko staggered, time rippling around her, her smile never fading. Good, but you'll never be free until you realize what you really are. She snapped her fingers again, and the roof vanished. Deku fell through time, tumbling past memories, moments, all the lives he might have lived. He saw his father always leaving, saw his mother crying, saw Bakugo dying over and over in 100 different ways. He tried to rewind, to reach out, but Kyoko's presence stopped him every time. You can't fix everything, Izuku, her voice echoed. Every action has a cost, every change leaves a scar. Do you really want that power? He screamed, power surging, the spiral burning white hot. I want to protect people, that's all. Then why do you keep breaking them? He fell harder until suddenly he was on the roof again, gasping for air, Kyoko looming over him. You're not the only one who can save or destroy, she whispered. There are others like us, some want to fix, some want to end, choose a side. She vanished, leaving the rooftop cold and empty. The UA rescue squad found him minutes later, unconscious, nose bleeding, shivering in the wind. They rushed him to Recovery Girl, who patched his wounds, but nothing fixed the ache in his soul. Bakugo was first to visit, stomping into the medbay, scowl deeper than ever. Did you lose? He demanded. Deku nodded, shame burning. Bakugo sat silent for once. So what? She's just another villain. Next time we win. Todoroki was next, voice gentle. You're still you, Midoriya, no matter what she says. Uraraka squeezed his hand. We're not letting her break you. Aizawa lingered last, eyes dark with worry. She's right about one thing, Midoriya. You're not unique, but you are ours. Remember that. Deku nodded, tears stinging his eyes. That night, he dreamed of Kyoko, her laughter ringing through broken timelines, her hand always just out of reach. But in the dream, he was not alone. His friends were with him, their hands steady, their voices clear. When he woke, he knew what he had to do. Train, learn, fight back. He wasn't the only one who could break time, but he would be the one to fix it. The days that followed were a blur of training, research, and restless nights. UA ramped up security. All Might and Aizawa watched Deku with a new intensity. The Hero Commission wanted answers, and villains across the city grew bolder, sensing opportunity in the chaos. Rumors swirled. Timebreaker was recruiting. Some said she could undo any quirk, erase memories, even steal years from her victims. Others whispered she was immortal, or that she could turn heroes into children, into ashes, into nothing at all. Deku studied every second of footage, memorized her moves, sketched her attacks in his notebook until the pages bled ink. Every night he replayed the fight in his head, searching for a weakness, for hope. And every morning he trained harder, rewinding the smallest cuts, healing broken bones, learning to touch time with the gentleness of a friend, not the desperation of a god. He talked with Eri, whose own quirk echoed his. Together, they learned to control the urge to fix what shouldn't be fixed, to heal only what needed healing. Class 1A rallied around him, Todoroki with his calm, Bakugo with his fire, Uraraka with her kindness. Even the students who once feared him now stood by his side, proud and resolute. He wasn't alone. And when Timebreaker's next message came, "Meet me, or I erase UA from existence," he didn't hesitate. He would face her again. But this time, he would fight for the future, not just to undo the past. The days after Deku's first battle with Kyoko, the Timebreaker, felt different, like waking up in a new world where every clock ticked a little louder and shadows stretched a little longer. The city was restless. The news was nothing but time quakes, missing people, stuck heroes, and wild-eyed pundits arguing if the world was on the edge of a miracle or a disaster. Deku tried to keep his head down and his routine normal, but nothing was the same. Even the simple things, morning jogs, lunchtime with Uraraka and Ida, Bakugo's endless taunts, felt haunted by the echo of Kyoko's words. "You're not the only one, some want to fix, some want to end, choose a side." He threw himself into training, sparring with Bakugo until both of them collapsed in sweat and bruises. He trained with Eri every afternoon, the two of them sharing cautious smiles and the invisible burden of having too much power for their own good. UA itself was locked down tighter than ever, teachers watching him and Eri with worried, sleepless eyes. But even with all that, he couldn't outrun the weight pressing on his chest, because he knew something now: the cost of a second chance, of revering time for someone who was meant to be gone. He was about to learn that cost in the cruelest way. It started with a knock on the dorm door late one night. Deku sat at his desk, lost in notes about time fractures and quirk resonance, when Uraraka poked her head in. "There's someone here to see you, Deku, from the commission." He followed her down the hall, anxiety gnawing at his gut. The common room was nearly empty except for Bakugo slumped on the couch and Todoroki reading by the window. At the far end of the room, a woman in a gray suit waited. Her face was drawn, her eyes red from crying. She stood when she saw him, Midoriya Izuku. He nodded, wary. "My name is Chiyokado. You saved my son during the Shibuya incident. His name is Haru." She looked down, hands trembling. "He died 2 days ago. A villain Timebreaker, they said, rewound his body until his heart gave out." Deku felt like ice was creeping up his spine. He remembered the boy, a middle schooler, all scraped knees and stubborn defiance, refusing to leave the danger zone until every friend was safe. Mrs. Kato wiped her eyes. "I know this isn't fair, I know you're just a kid, but they say you can bring people back, they say you can give second chances, please, just this once." Deku hesitated. He felt Bakugo's eyes on him, sharp and warning. Todoroki had stopped reading, his gaze heavy and silent. He swallowed. "I'll try, but you need to understand, my quirk, it isn't perfect. Sometimes when I reverse something that's already meant to be gone, it can hurt more than it helps." She nodded desperately, falling to her knees. "Please, I'll do anything, he's all I have." Uraraka's hand found his shoulder, her grip tight. "Deku, you don't have to do this, not if it's dangerous." He met her eyes, searching for something: permission, forgiveness, maybe just the strength to say no. But all he found was understanding. "I have to try," Deku whispered. They met in the UA medical wing. Recovery girl, Aizawa, and a pair of commission observers watched in tense silence. Haru's body lay on the table, pale and still. The machines around him were silent. Mrs. Kato clutched her son's hand, tears streaming down her cheeks. Deku stood beside the bed, hands trembling. He felt the spiral ignite on his palm, golden and hot. He remembered Eri's warnings, how when she used her rewind on living things, sometimes she lost them, rewound them out of existence, or changed them into something they'd never been. "Be careful," Eri had whispered once, small and scared. "Time doesn't like being forced. Sometimes it takes back more than it gives." He nodded to Recovery Girl. "I'm ready." He pressed his hand to Haru's chest, focusing all his will, all his hope, all his desperate need for this not to be a mistake. "Please," he breathed, "give him another chance." The spiral flared, heat racing up his arm. The world seemed to slow, sounds dulling, the air growing thick and heavy. Time bent. He pulled. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Haru's body arched on the table, a gasp tearing from his lips. His eyes fluttered open, wild and unfocused. The heart monitor shrieked and color flooded back into his cheeks. Mrs. Kato screamed with joy, pulling him into a fierce embrace. The commission agents gasped, one nearly dropping her clipboard. Recovery Girl murmured a prayer. Deku staggered, the room spinning. He felt cold, distant, as if he'd left part of himself somewhere else. Haru blinked, dazed. "Mom, where am I?" She sobbed, holding him. "You're alive, oh Haru, you're alive." Aizawa placed a gentle hand on Deku's shoulder. "You did it, kid." But Deku couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. They kept Haru at UA for observation. The first day, everything seemed fine. Haru ate, drank, laughed with his mother, joked with the nurses. But on the second day, the symptoms began. He started asking strange questions like, "What year is it?" and "Did we win the sports festival?" even though he'd never been to UA and Deku was a year ahead of him. On the third day, he complained of headaches, then started muttering to himself, holding conversations with people no one else could see. He called Deku by the wrong name, sometimes Izuku, sometimes seemed frightened by reflections. By the fourth day, he woke screaming, clutching his chest, insisting he'd died again, that he'd seen himself at his own funeral, that he remembered a world where UA was gone, where the boy in green was missing. Recovery Girl ran tests, but nothing explained it. The commission grew nervous, hinting they might intervene if the boy's condition worsened. Aizawa ordered extra security, and he revisited every day, sitting quietly beside Haru, trying to soothe him with little stories. Deku sat in his room, paralyzed with guilt. Bakugo barged in one night, slamming the door so hard the window rattled. "This is what happens when you play God, Deku." Deku shot to his feet, anger flaring. "What was I supposed to do, Kakin? Let him stay dead, tell his mother no when I could help." Bakugo's voice was low, furious. "You're not helping, you're making it worse. He's not right, everyone can see it, even you." Deku's fist shook. "So what? Should I just stand by and do nothing every time I have a chance to save someone?" Bakugo crossed the room, jabbing a finger into Deku's chest. "Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you save more people by not messing with fate. I'm not saying let people die, but you can't fix everything by rewinding it. You're not a hero if you destroy someone's soul just to say you saved them." Deku slumped, energy draining out of him. "I never wanted this, I thought I could do good." Bakugo's glare softened just a hair. "Then do good, but do it right. Don't lose yourself trying to fix what's already broken." He left, slamming the door behind him. Deku collapsed on his bed, staring at the ceiling. The golden spiral on his palm seemed to glow brighter in the dark, a brand he couldn't wash off. He dreamed of Haru's face, alive and dead, smiling and screaming, flickering between timelines like a broken television. The next morning, everything fell apart. A siren blared through UA, rousing the students. Deku bolted from bed, racing for the medical wing. A crowd had gathered outside, teachers, commission agents, even a few heroes on standby. Aizawa blocked the door. "Stay here, Midoriya." Deku shook his head, panic rising. "What's happening?" Aizawa's voice was grim. "Haru, he's gone." Deku stared. "Gone, what do you mean?" Aizawa's eyes were tired. He vanished. One minute he was talking to his mother, the next he just unraveled, like time let go of him. Recovery Girl stepped out, wiping her eyes. "It was like nothing I've ever seen. He just faded. He was here and then he was. No pulse, no body, nothing, like he never existed." Deku's knees buckled. Uraraka caught him, holding him up. He stared at his hands, horror and guilt twisting inside him. "I killed him. I brought him back and killed him again." Aizawa shook his head. "You tried to help, but you learned the hard way. Some things can't be undone." The commission agents descended on them, demanding answers, protocols, containment. Nezu intervened, his small form radiating authority. "He will not be punished for trying to save a life," the principal said sharply. "But let this be a lesson. The power to give second chances comes with a price." Mrs. Kato sobbed quietly in the corner, broken and alone. Deku was benched from all field work. He spent days under observation, forced to repeat the story to analysts, doctors, even the media when rumors leaked. The world turned on him, praise and fear twisting into outrage. The hero who brings back the dead can't keep them alive. Clockwork Reaper, monster or martyr? UA student blamed for reality glitches. His friends tried to shield him, but Deku could feel the shift. Some students avoided him in the halls. Others watched with a mix of awe and suspicion. Even Eri seemed wary, clinging to Aizawa during Quirk training. Deku retreated into himself. He spent his days in the library, reading everything he could find about time, about paradoxes, about heroes who'd lost control. his notebooks filled with equations, warnings, desperate apologies. Todoroki visited one afternoon, sliding a cup of tea across the table. "You did what you thought was right," he said quietly. Deku shook his head. "I failed him, I failed everyone." Todoroki looked out the window, eyes thoughtful. "You can't fix the world alone, Deku. Even with all the power and time, let us help you, lean on us." Deku managed a shaky smile. "Thanks, Shoto." One night, as rain pounded the dorm windows, Uraraka found Deku on the roof, staring out over the city. She sat beside him, silent for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "Do you regret it?" He thought about it, the weight of Haru's life and death heavy on his shoulders. "I regret thinking I could control everything, that I could fix every mistake. I can't, I shouldn't have tried." She took his hand, squeezing gently. "You can't undo the past, Deku, but you can learn from it." He nodded, letting the rain wash away some of the pain. Down below, the city lights shimmered in the wet night, the world still moving forward, time relentless and unstoppable. For the first time in weeks, Deku let himself hope that maybe, just maybe, he could too. But somewhere in the city, Timebreaker watched the same storm, a wicked smile curling her lips. "One step closer, Izuku Midoriya," she whispered. "Now you know what second chances really cost." Lightning forked across the sky, and in its flash, Kyoko vanished, already working on her next move, one that would make the world question what was worth saving and what was meant to be lost forever. No matter how many times Deku tried to focus on training or study, his mind kept circling back to the look on Haru's face before he disappeared. Grateful, hopeful, then terrified as he realized he wasn't meant to be there. The memory stuck with Deku, infecting every moment with guilt. If he closed his eyes, he saw not just Haru, but every timeline he'd accidentally touched, every ghost flickering at the edges of his vision. That weight grew heavier by the day, until he started skipping meals, dodging friends, and barely sleeping at all. The rest of Class 1A noticed. They tried to drag him back, Kaminari with bad jokes, Mina with group games, Uraraka with gentle smiles, but even their energy couldn't break through. Only Bakugo refused to coddle him, and that somehow was the one comfort Deku could tolerate. Still, the world outside gave no time for healing. Rumors reached UA that Timebreaker was building a following. Villains, some quirkless, others with time-adjacent abilities, all desperate for a chance to shatter the hero status quo. Incidents increased. Heroes lost fights they'd easily have won a week ago, the very laws of physics flickering on camera. And for once, the commission didn't just ask for Deku, they demanded Bakugo too. The summons came early, Aizawa entering the dorm common room before sunrise, his tired face more tense than usual. "Midoriya, Bakugo, gear up, you're both wanted for field support downtown. A villain group with known time quirks, this is no ordinary patrol." Bakugo grinned, fire sparking in his palms. Finally, some action. Deku's reply was quieter. "Should I even go, after what happened last time?" Aizawa's look was unreadable. "You both go, but Bakugo, you're in command until I say otherwise. Deku, you do not use your power unless you get my direct order. Understand?" Bakugo smirked at Deku. "Hear that, nerd, I'm the boss." Deku forced a smile, tension knotting in his chest. The operation zone was a city block locked down by heroes Endeavor, Mirko, and dozens of lower-ranked pros. All Might watched from a rooftop, gaunt features hidden beneath a hat, his gaze never leaving Deku. The threat, a villain gang led by Chronic, a tattooed woman with a voice that echoed through time, backed by a group called the Timegazers. They'd taken hostages half a dozen office workers inside a glass-walled skyscraper. The building's clocks all spun backward at different speeds, every window displaying a different time of day. Bakugo barked orders. "Todoroki, Mirko, cover the east exit. Uraraka, get the hostages ready for zero gravity. I'll go in the front. Deku, stay with Aizawa until I call you." Deku nodded, the familiar shame flaring. For once, he was on the sidelines, and he hated it. Bakugo charged in, explosions clearing the way. The Timegazers responded instantly. One warped the floor into a river of moving glass, another froze a stairwell, trapping Endeavor. Chronic's voice rang out, taunting, "Heroes, you're fighting the future. Why bother?" Bakugo's answer was a full-powered grenade blast that shattered 3 walls. Outside, Deku watched, shaking. He wanted to help. Every instinct screamed at him to rewind the chaos, to fix every misstep, but Aizawa stood by his side, eyes red and unblinking. "Patience, Midoriya, trust Bakugo, trust the team." Inside, the fight escalated. Bakugo battled two villains at once, dodging time-slowed punches, weaving through bullet-fast debris. Todoroki froze an entire room to block a villain from aging him forward a decade. Mirko kicked down a wall, tossing two hostages to safety. Chronic, cornered, grinned at Bakugo. "You're not the one I want, but I'll make do." She snapped her fingers. Bakugo felt his own body slow, his vision stretching. Deku saw it all through the glass, adrenaline spiking. Aizawa grabbed Deku's arm. "Not yet." Inside, Bakugo fought the time slip, cursing. Every movement felt wrong, but he forced himself forward. "You think a cheap trick will stop me?" Chronic's grin widened. "You're already running out of time." Bakugo let loose a massive explosion, the blast knocking Chronic back but blowing a hole in the ceiling. Debris rained down, and a villain with time reversal tattoos snatched a hostage, dragging them toward the roof. Bakugo shouted, "Uraraka, get them." But Uraraka was pinned down, her gravity field flickering. Deku clenched his fists. "Let me go in, he needs me." Aizawa hesitated, then voice low, "Go, but only if you have no other option." Deku bolted for the building. He ran up the stairs, dodging flickering shadows of villains appearing and disappearing in bursts of time. His quirk itched to activate, but he fought it, pushing forward on willpower alone. On the roof, Bakugo faced Chronic and the last villain, the hostage tied at their feet. Timebreaker's signature gold shimmer hung in the air, a warning, a challenge. Chronic laughed. "You're not the hero they fear, Bakugo. You're just a sidekick to the boy who rewinds the world." Bakugo's eyes burned. "You want the Reaper? Too bad, you get me." The villain lunged, slamming a fist into Bakugo's ribs. He felt something snap, a rib, maybe two. Blood filled his mouth. The world slowed. Deku burst onto the roof just as Bakugo staggered, vision swimming. Chronic spun, eyes wide. "Midoriya, care to trade places? Save your friend and I'll give you the hostage." Bakugo glared at Deku, blood on his lips. "Don't you dare rewind me." Deku froze. "Kakin." Bakugo's voice was iron. "No, you don't get to save me, not like that." Chronic moved to shove the hostage off the edge. Instinct overrode everything else. Deku dove, grabbing the hostage's arm, pulling him back. But that left Chronic free. She slammed a hand into Bakugo's shoulder. Time rippled. Bakugo's body aged a year in an instant, then snapped back, his muscles torn by the strain. Deku stood shaking. The urge to reverse time screamed inside him. Bakugo's eyes locked onto his. "If you rewind me, Deku, we both lose." Chronic cackled. "How poetic, a hero who refuses to be saved." Bakugo coughed, standing with trembling legs. "I'd rather die a hero than live as your experiment." Deku's heart shattered, but he nodded, tears streaming. "Okay, Kakin, I trust you." Bakugo let loose one last explosion, hurling Chronic backward into the glass railing, which shattered beneath her. The villain tumbled, caught by Todoroki's ice seconds before she hit the street. Police and heroes swarmed the building. Chronic and her crew were hauled off in Quirk cuffs, screaming threats at Deku and Bakugo. Bakugo slumped to his knees, breathing hard. Deku ran to his side, hands outstretched. "Let me help, please, just a little, Kakin." Bakugo shook his head, teeth gritted. "Don't. If you fix every injury, I'll never get stronger. I'll never face the consequences of my choices. That's not what heroes do." Deku fell silent, hands shaking, then nodded. "Okay." Bakugo looked up, something raw in his gaze. "You saved the hostage. You did it right, Deku. Don't lose that." In the aftermath, the commission was furious. Why had Deku used his power sooner? Why let a top student get hurt? Why not simply reset the fight if things went bad? Aizawa went toe-to-toe with the agents, shielding both boys from their wrath. "Heroes aren't tools, we're people. Bakugo made a choice, respect it." News cameras captured Bakugo in a hospital bed, refusing treatment that would erase his injuries. Deku was hailed as a hero for the hostage rescue, but also questioned again for the limits of his power. Late that night, the two boys shared a quiet room in the med bay, side by side in battered silence. Bakugo finally spoke. "I hate being weak, Deku, but I'd rather be weak on my own terms than live in your shadow. Don't you ever take that choice away from me." Deku squeezed his hand. "I won't." Bakugo grinned. "Good, because next time I'm saving your ass." Word of Bakugo's refusal to be rewound spread quickly. Students and pro-heroes debated fiercely, was it pride or principle? Some saw Bakugo's stand as foolish, others as heroic. But in the days that followed, a quiet respect grew between the two friends, a new understanding forged in pain and trust. Deku found himself smiling more, sleeping better, letting go of a little of that unbearable guilt. He still saw ghosts sometimes, timelines that could have been, wounds he could have healed, but Bakugo's words stuck with him: if you fix every injury, I'll never get stronger. That's not what heroes do. Maybe some pain had to be lived, not erased. But the world wasn't done testing him. Timebreaker's attacks grew more unpredictable, paradox storms erupting in city after city. Villains from erased timelines appeared in the shadows. Pro-heroes whispered that the end of all timelines was coming, a storm none of them could outrun. And somewhere in the heart of that growing chaos, a new nightmare waited, a future where every choice was undone and no one could move forward. Deku stood on the UA roof one night, the city spread below, Bakugo beside him, both battered but unbroken. "We keep fighting," Bakugo said, voice fierce. Deku nodded, "No matter what." Bakugo grinned, "Good, because I'm not letting you play God with my life, or anyone's, got it?" Deku smiled, the first real one in weeks. "Got it, Kakin." The future was uncertain, but for the first time since his quirk awakened, Deku felt something close to peace. Below, the world spun on heroes, villains, ordinary people, all chasing their own timelines, all making choices, all living with the scars. And up above, two friends stood side by side, ready to face whatever time would throw at them next. The sky above Tokyo churned with an unnatural green, storm clouds crackling with more than just lightning. News helicopters hovered at the edge of the brewing chaos, capturing footage that looked more like an apocalypse than anything the city had endured before. Inside UA, alarms shrieked. Students and teachers scrambled to emergency positions, eyes wide with fear as every TV, every radio, every phone blared the same words: "Paradox storms are erupting across Japan. Do not approach. Shelter in place. Await hero response." Izuku Midoriya stood at the window, watching the horizon fracture. He could see streaks of gold and silver in the sky, time itself splitting, one block at dusk, the next in broad daylight, another flickering through rain and snow in seconds. Eri clung to his side, white-knuckled, her small face pale. Bakugo and Todoroki stood at his back, ready, grim. Even Aizawa looked shaken. "Timebreaker," Deku muttered, anger rising with the thunder. "She's not just showing off, she's ripping reality open." Aizawa nodded, voice sharp. "All heroes on deck. Midoriya, Eri, you're to stay at UA unless we call you. We don't know what she's capable of now." Bakugo scoffed, "You really think we're gonna just sit here while the world falls apart?" Aizawa's eyes burned. "If you leave without orders, you risk making things worse. Don't test me." But the temptation was strong. Deku could feel his quirk itching, the spiral in his palm heating up, begging to be used. Every sense screamed at him to do something. Minutes stretched into hours. Outside, the city convulsed. A nearby park flickered between seasons, cherry blossoms blooming and falling in a loop, people caught mid-laugh suddenly vanishing, replaced by strangers in different clothes. Trains that should have passed by hours ago now hovered in the air, stuck between timelines. The news kept up a frantic stream. All Might cited fighting a villain in his prime, but witnesses also report seeing him frail and powerless in the same moment. Stain, the hero killer, appears and disappears on camera, sometimes chained, sometimes running free, sometimes not there at all. Two hawks, both real, both screaming at the camera, one older than the other, one crying, "This isn't my world." Deku's phone buzzed with desperate texts, classmates from other schools begging for help, civilians sending videos of time glitches, one after another. The world was coming undone. At last the call came through. Nezu, his voice tight, ordered, "Midoriya, Eri, Todoroki, Bakugo, Uraraka, assemble in the main hall. The city needs you. This may be our only chance to fight back." The city outside was chaos. Hero HQ turned into a war room. Endeavor barked orders. Mirko leaped across a map riddled with pins and digital screens. Hawks, both young and old, argued with a pair of present mics from different years. The sheer density of paradoxes warped the air. Some parts of the street seemed to move in slow motion, others in rapid reverse. The UA strike team stood ready. Aizawa pulled Deku aside. Your quirk can patch small rips, he said, but don't try to fix everything. We need to find Timebreaker and shut her down. Anything else risks tearing the world apart. Deku nodded, nerves taut. Eri clutched his arm. Don't use your power unless you have to, she whispered, and bring me with you, I think I can help. A portal blinked open. Kurogiri aligned with the heroes for once, his voice grave. The main storm is centered at Shinjuku. Timebreaker is waiting. Todoroki's ice cracked under his boots. Bakugo's hands glowed. Uraraka floated a few inches above the ground, the air humming with zero gravity. Deku took a breath, then stepped through the portal. Shinjuku was a war zone of timelines. Familiar buildings split between decades, neon signs overlaying Edo-era wooden shops, cars fused with carriages, streetlights alternating between gas flame and LED. In the sky, clouds spun backward, raining upwards. Dozens of heroes fought their own doubles, versions of themselves from timelines where they'd lost or where they'd made different choices. Deku spotted MT, Lady grappling with her own shadow, two Ietas running in opposite directions, a version of Aizawa in a costume. Deku didn't recognize, yelling tactics at a squad of unfamiliar faces. And in the epicenter stood Timebreaker, Kyoko, her silver hair whipping around her in the wind, a smile wide and wild. "Welcome, Izuku," she called, voice echoing through the storm. "Isn't this beautiful? Every timeline, every possibility yours for the taking." Deku stepped forward, friends at his side. "You're going to end the world," he shouted. "Stop this before there's nothing left to save." Kyoko laughed, pure joy. "End the world? No, I'm setting it free. You want to fix everything. Don't you see how much better it could be if we let go of the rules?" Bakugo snarled, "Rules keep people alive, psycho." Todoroki flanked Deku, cold and composed. "You can't control what comes out of the storm. You'll destroy us all." Kyoko's eyes glowed. "Not destroy, evolve." She raised her hands, and a wave of paradox swept out. Suddenly, Deku found himself face to face with himself. A version of him with longer hair, harder eyes, his costume battered and streaked with blood. The other Deku stared at him. "You're too soft," he spat. "You keep saving everyone and you lose yourself." "I stopped. That's why my world survived." Deku stumbled backward. I don't want to be like you." The other Deku vanished, replaced by a villain, a younger Shigaraki, wild and grinning. "Want to try again, Midoriya? Let's see if you can save the world this time." Deku's quirk surged to the surface, but Eri grabbed his arm, her own horn glowing faintly. "Let me help. I can stabilize you, just focus." All around them, classmates and heroes fought their own doppelgangers, each battle more surreal than the last. Bakugo fought a version of himself with a massive scar, their explosions shaking the street. Todoroki was flanked by an older, colder version, one who had chosen fire over ice, his left side burned and angry. Uraraka was suddenly swept up by dozens of memories, timelines where she had confessed to Deku, where she had become a villain, where she had died. Deku focused on the spiral in his palm, willed himself to stay present. "Kyoko," he shouted, "you want to test me? Fine, but you're going to stop hurting my friends." Kyoko grinned, raising her arms. "Then beat me, prove your timeline deserves to survive." She unleashed another wave. Reality fractured again. Deku felt himself split 3, 4, 10 versions at once, each one a possibility. One gave up his quirk, one joined the villains, one lived quietly with his mother, never becoming a hero at all. He fought for control, Eri's power anchoring him. Bakugo's voice cut through the storm. "Oi nerd, don't let her win." Deku snapped back to himself, the spiral blazing white-hot. He dove through the storm, reaching Kyoko as she tried to tear another hole in the sky. He tackled her, both of them tumbling through layers of reality. Inside the eye of the paradox, time was a void. Every version of Kyoko and Deku flickered past, children, old, victorious, defeated. Kyoko hissed, "You still don't get it. We're not meant to have power like this. We're meant to use it." Deku shook his head, voice strong. "No, power isn't about control, it's about responsibility. You can't just tear the world apart because you can." Kyoko laughed, wild and desperate. "Then try to stop me, Izuku. If you win, maybe your world survives. If you lose, every timeline ends. That's the cost." They grappled, their quirks clashing, gold and silver light tearing at the void. Kyoko's strike spun seconds backward, Deku's rewound wounds and moments, each trying to overtake the other. Yuri's voice echoed a tether, Deku, remember who you are, don't fight to undo, fight to move forward. Deku found strength remembering Bakugo's words, Uraraka's faith, his mother's smile. He reached out not to rewind but to stabilize. He anchored his timeline, pouring his will into the world. The spiral on his palm shifted, no longer just a tool for reversal, but a beacon of hope. Kyoko screamed as reality snapped. She was forced back, her quirk flickering, the storm receding. All around them, the paradoxes collapsed, doppelgangers fading, time glitches smoothing out. The city began to heal. Kyoko staggered, gasping, You can't win, you're just delaying the end. Deku stood, battered but defiant. Maybe, but I'll keep fighting. I won't fix the world by tearing it apart. I'll move forward with everyone I love. The storm broke. Sunlight pierced the clouds, bathing the ruined city in gold. The aftermath was chaos. Heroes rounded up confused civilians, patching wounds both physical and psychic. Several students hugged their real friends, relieved the nightmare versions were gone. Yuri clung to Deku, smiling through tears. You did it. Bakugo limped over, grinning. Took you long enough, idiot. Uraraka hugged Deku hard, her relief obvious. Todoroki stood beside them, calm as ever. Is it over? Deku shook his head. Not yet, but we made it through. Nezu arrived, nodding with approval. You held the line, Midoriya. You reminded the world why we fight for the future, not the past. That night, back at UA, Deku stared out at the city, exhausted. His quirk felt changed, less like a weapon, more like a trust. The scars of the paradox storm would take time to heal, but hope had returned. In the darkness, a shadow moved, Kyoko, watching from afar. Her smile was sad now, almost understanding. Maybe there is a timeline where we're both heroes, Izuku, she whispered, but not this one, not yet. She vanished, leaving the city to its uncertain peace. But the world kept turning. Somewhere a new threat stirred, a villain untouched by time, immune to reversal, watching, waiting. And for Deku, the fight was just beginning. But this time, he wasn't afraid. He knew who he was, and as long as he had his friends, he would face any storm, no matter how many timelines he had to cross to protect them. Sunlight sliced through the UA dorm windows, glinting off the debris and broken glass scattered around the campus grounds. The paradox storm had left deep scars, twisted metal, warped buildings, fractured memories, but somehow the world had survived. Deku stood at the window in his room, hands braced on the sill, watching as recovery crews cleared the rubble. His reflection in the glass was strange to him now. The golden spiral on his palm was faint, barely visible, but he could still feel its warmth, like a ticking clock at the edge of his thoughts. He flexed his fingers, remembering the moment when he'd chosen to stabilize instead of rewind. It had worked, but only just. Down below, heroes came and went, some familiar, others shaken versions of themselves from timelines that had only just faded out of existence. Everyone looked exhausted, but alive. Yuri's voice startled him. Deku. He turned, she stood in the doorway, eyes tired but hopeful. Aizawa says you're needed in the command room. Something happened. Deku pulled on his jacket, nodded. Thanks, Yuri. She offered him a lopsided smile. Don't do anything reckless, okay? He grinned, trying to reassure her, but they both knew the days of reckless being avoidable were long gone. The command room was packed, Aizawa, Present Mike, Nezu, and a crowd of heroes with haunted faces. In the center of the room, a massive monitor displayed live video from downtown Tokyo. Police tape fluttered in the breeze, the skyline marked by a new, impossible sight, a gleaming golden statue of All Might, caught mid-smile and mid-stride, larger than life. Aizawa gestured for Deku to join him. We found something during cleanup. It's not just a statue, it's All Might, or more accurately, a version of him from the past. Deku's heart skipped, a real All Might. Nezu nodded, his voice grave. It appears the paradox storm didn't just fracture time, it pulled people through. There's a young Toshinori Yagi, maybe 20, standing frozen inside that golden shell. He's alive, but stuck. Bakugo shoved through the crowd, eyes wide. Wait, are you telling me All Might is here, at full power, and you idiots are just letting him sit there? Todoroki spoke up, measured. He's not moving. It's like he's out of phase. We tried everything. Nothing worked. No quirk, no touch can reach him. Deku stared at the screen, awe mixing with dread. All Might, his All Might, the symbol of peace at his height, trapped by the storm he'd barely stopped. Aizawa's voice was heavy. We thought maybe your quirk, your connection to time, could reach him. Deku's breath caught. If I mess this up. Nezu's gaze was sharp. We know, but if anyone can reach him, it's you. Bakugo grinned wild. Go get your hero, Deku. They moved in force: Deku, Aizawa, Bakugo, Todoroki, Mirko, and a dozen commission agents. The city was eerily quiet as they approached, the crowds held back by police and pro-heroes. The golden All Might glowed in the morning light, each strand of hair captured in perfect detail, a hand outstretched as if reaching for someone just out of sight. Deku swallowed his nerves, stepping forward. His friends watched, silent. He pressed his palms, spiral blazing, against the golden shell. Time warped, the world faded away. He was standing in a vast, empty void, a white horizon stretching forever. Before him stood All Might, not the gaunt mentor he knew, but the giant from his childhood, hair wild and cape snapping in an invisible wind. All Might blinked in confusion, then fixed Deku with a blazing smile. Young man, where am I? Is this the afterlife? Deku's throat tightened. No, All Might, not exactly. You were pulled here into my time, you're in the future. All Might stared, then let out a laugh, deep and thunderous. Incredible, the future, am I still a hero? Deku hesitated. You're more than a hero, you became the symbol of peace. You inspired a generation. You saved so many people, me included. All Might's expression softened, pride warring with worry. If I'm here, does that mean something's wrong? Deku nodded, shame coloring his words. A villain with a quirk like mine, she broke time, paradoxes everywhere, you got caught in it. The world's not safe, I'm not sure how to get you out without making it worse. All Might placed a massive hand on Deku's shoulder, grip reassuring. You can do this, young man, you have my power, right? Deku blinked. You know. All Might grinned. I can feel it, the spark, the will to save, that never changes no matter the timeline. Deku laughed, tears stinging his eyes. I don't know if I can fix everything, All Might, I keep making mistakes. Sometimes I think I should just stop using my quirk. All Might's eyes shone with kindness. Being a hero means risking mistakes, Midoriya, but it also means never giving up. The world needs people who fight, even when it hurts. Deku nodded, heart swelling. Will you help me, even just for a little while? All Might smiled, radiant. Of course, let's save the future together. The void shuddered, the golden shell cracked, light spilling out. Deku opened his eyes to see All Might, young, powerful, real, standing before him in the middle of Tokyo, dazzling as a sunrise. The crowd exploded into cheers. Pro-hero stood stunned, children wept, reporters screamed questions. All Might struck a pose, voice booming. Fear not, citizens. Why? Because I am here. Deku beamed, barely believing what he'd done. Bakugo nudged him, whispering, try not to cry, nerd. Todoroki just watched, a rare smile tugging at his lips. For the next few hours, the city saw a miracle. All Might in his prime patrolled the streets with Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki at his side. He lifted fallen debris, calmed frightened civilians, even stopped a runaway train with a single hand. For a moment, Tokyo remembered what hope felt like. But not everything was perfect. As the sun set, All Might's body began to shimmer, his form blurring at the edges. Deku saw it first, a sick twist in his gut. All Might, he called, are you okay? All Might glanced down, frowning. I feel odds, like I'm being pulled away. Aizawa approached, concern in his voice. We're getting time fluctuations. His presence here isn't stable. He might be erased if we don't act. Nezu's voice crackled over the comms. Midoriya, you may have to send him back to his own time before he's lost forever. Deku's heart clenched. The thought of losing All Might again was almost too much. All Might knelt, voice gentle. It's all right, young Midoriya. My place is in my own era. You must lead here. Deku bit his lip, but I'm not ready. I still have so much to learn. All Might smiled, placing a hand on Deku's shoulder. You're ready. The world needs your heart, not just your power. Bakugo huffed, don't get all mushy. Just fix it, Deku. Deku nodded, wiping his eyes. I'll try. He placed his hand on All Might's shoulder, focusing. Go home, be the hero you're meant to be. The spiral glowed brighter than ever. Time bent. The world blurred, Deku glimpsed memories, All Might fighting all for one, saving cities, lifting a broken boy's spirits on a rainy day. Each moment felt like a blessing, a lesson, a gift. Then with a flash of light, All Might was gone. Deku fell to his knees, drained. The crowd was silent for a moment, then cheered. They understood a miracle had come and gone, but hope remained. Bakugo helped Deku up, grumbling, "Next time, try not to break time, idiot." Todoroki placed a steady hand on Deku's back. "You did well." Eri ran to him, hugging his waist. "You brought him home, Deku. You brought hope back." Deku smiled, exhausted but at peace. That night in the quiet of the dorms, Deku found All Might, his own, present-day mentor, sitting on the roof, gazing up at the stars. Deku joined him, silent for a while. All Might's voice was soft, nostalgic. "You saw me young, strong, invincible, but that's not who I am anymore, I hope you understand." Deku nodded. "You're still my hero, All Might, no matter what." All Might smiled, pride and sadness mingling in his eyes. "And you're mine, Midoriya. You saved the world, don't ever forget that." They sat together, watching the stars, time ticking on. Elsewhere in the city, Timebreaker seethed. She felt the disturbance, All Might's presence, the brief stabilization of the paradox storm, and she hated it. She paced in her hidden lair, planning her next move. "You got lucky, Izuku," she whispered, "but luck runs out, and I have all the time in the world." She stared into a swirling portal, watching a dozen versions of Deku lead the charge against her. "Let's see which of you is strong enough to survive the end of all things." She smiled, and with a flick of her fingers, the portal closed. But for tonight, the city was safe. For a moment, hope had returned, and in the hearts of heroes everywhere, a promise remained. No matter how many timelines were broken, as long as they kept moving forward, the future could still be saved. UA was haunted, not by ghosts but by memories and scars that didn't fit, like walking through a house you half remembered from a dream. In the aftermath of the paradox storm and All Might's return, timelines were still settling. Students sometimes forgot what day it was. Teachers found old lesson plans scribbled in unfamiliar handwriting. The world felt almost right, but not quite. The Hero Commission was split between celebration and panic. Some wanted Deku locked up for good. Others wanted to give him a medal and a full support team. The public for once seemed united. They believed in hope again, and hope's name was Izuku Midoriya. But Deku felt the weight of it more than ever. Every miracle he performed was matched by another crack in reality. He kept seeing people double-take at him in the halls, as if expecting someone taller or quieter or not there at all. When he trained, sometimes his body felt unfamiliar, memories from timelines he'd never lived flickering across his mind. Was he the original? Did it matter? Bakugo noticed first, of course. They were sparring in Gym Gamma, sweat flying and fists blurring. Bakugo ducked a feint and barked, "You're hesitating, nerd. You still scared of yourself?" Deku panted, hands up, "Not scared, just careful." Bakugo scowled, launching a rapid-fire barrage. "Careful gets you killed. You're the strongest now, and everyone knows it. Own it." Deku blocked the blast with a burst of one for all, the gym shaking. "I don't want to hurt anyone. Every time I use my quirk, I feel the timelines shift, like I'm walking on a minefield." Bakugo dropped his stance, chest heaving. "We all are. That's being a hero. You just got a bigger field to cross." Deku looked away. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm still me." Bakugo's voice softened, "A rare thing. You are, you always have been. Don't let the world take that from you." Deku smiled, a little of the burden lifting. The next morning, Principal Nezu called an emergency meeting. The staff room was buzzing. Aizawa, Recovery Girl, Mirko, Hawks, even All Might sitting a little straighter, pride and worry mixed on his face. The commission's agent stood at the back, stone-faced. Nezu tapped a paw on the table. "Our city is healing, but new villains are filling the void left by the paradox storm. Worse, Timebreaker's cult is growing, people who want to tear the world apart to build their own perfect timelines." Aizawa's voice was iron. "We need to show the world that UA stands strong, that our students and our heroes are undefeated." A commission agent cleared his throat. "With respect, Principal Nezu, your faith in Midoriya is optimistic. If he loses control, the world may not survive." All Might's eyes blazed. "Young Midoriya risked everything to save us. He's more hero than any of us. If you want to arrest someone, arrest me." The agent blinked. Nezu smiled, claws steepled. "A public demonstration then, a challenge. If our students led by Midoriya can defeat the best the commission can throw at them, you give them freedom to keep fighting. If not, we talk restrictions." Bakugo grinned, you want to fight, you'll get one. The agent hesitated, then nodded. We accept. Aizawa turned to Deku, his face unreadable. This isn't just about power, it's about trust. Show them why you're the symbol now. Deku squared his shoulders. We'll win, not because of my quirk, because we're heroes. Word spread like wildfire. Heroes and civilians alike flocked to the UA arena, the stands packed, the world watching by livestream. The students of 1A and 1B stood united, shoulder to shoulder, with Deku at their front. Their opponents, the Commission's best elite pros, quirk specialists, and a new anti-paradox task force, wielding the latest tech designed to nullify time quirks. The rules were simple: rescue the hostages, disable the task force, and prove that the future belonged to heroes, not bureaucrats. The whistle blew. Bakugo charged ahead, explosions lighting the sky, taking the brunt of the task force's counterattack. Todoroki froze a wall of fire, creating cover for Ida and Uraraka to slip behind enemy lines. Kirishima tanked a barrage of anti-quirk grenades, laughing as he shrugged off the blasts. Deku hung back at first, scanning the field, searching for threats invisible to the naked eye. His quirk tingled, a warning, a ripple in time. Someone was using a quirk like his. A masked task force agent flickered into view, phasing between seconds, aiming a time-dampening rifle at Bakugo. Deku sprinted forward, using a controlled burst of rewind to slide between moments. He caught the agent's arm, redirecting the shot into empty space. Nice try, Deku grinned, then swept the agent's feet with a flicker of his quirk, just enough to force a reset, not an undo, but a gentle push forward. The agent hit the dirt, gear fizzling. Impossible, he gasped. You're not using full power. Deku shook his head. I don't have to. We win by moving forward, not back. Bakugo blew through a wall, grabbing a hostage and tossing them to Uraraka, who floated them to safety. Todoroki squared off with 3 pros at once, alternating fire and ice, never giving ground. All across the field, students outmaneuvered, outsmarted, and outlasted the task force. Teamwork trumped technology, courage outshone fear. But the final test came as the lead task force agent, codenamed Paradox, stepped onto the field, wielding a prototype quirk amplifier designed to destabilize time around Deku. He aimed it at Deku, smirking. Let's see if you're still undefeated when your quirk turns against you. Deku felt the spiral pulse, pain searing up his arm. His vision split. He saw futures branching, timelines collapsing, dozens of possible failures flashing before his eyes. Panic clawed at him. But then he heard his friends. Bakugo, you're the strongest nerd, show them. Uraraka, we believe in you. Todoroki, you're not alone. Yuri from the stands, clutching Aizawa's hand, whispered, Deku, come back. Deku steadied his breathing, forcing the spiral to slow, to stabilize. He let go of the urge to fix, to rewind, to control. He just was. Time snapped into place. He stepped forward, eyes blazing. You want to see undefeated? Watch this. He launched himself at Paradox, not with rewind, but with everything One for All had taught him: speed, skill, resolve. He dodged the quirk amplifier's beam, disarmed the agent with a precise strike, and shattered the device with a burst of controlled energy. The timeline stabilized. The agent fell to his knees, stunned. The crowd erupted. Deku turned, hand raised. We fight for the future, not because we can control it, but because we choose to move forward together. The Commission agents, outmaneuvered, outclassed, outnumbered, could only watch as the world chose hope over fear. After the match, as dusk fell, Aizawa found Deku standing by the ruined field, exhaustion in every line of his body. You did it, Aizawa said quietly. Deku shook his head, smiling. We did it, all of us. Bakugo sauntered over, smirking. Guess you're finally catching up, nerd. Todoroki nodded, a rare look of respect on his face. You're not just the strongest, you're the heart of all of us. Uraraka hugged Deku, whispering, don't ever let them change who you are. In the stands, the world cheered. For one night, UA was undefeated. That night, as stars wheeled overhead, Deku sat on the rooftop, the city lights glittering far below. He stared at the spiral on his palm, feeling its steady pulse, not a curse, but a promise. Time was fragile, the world could break, but as long as heroes stood together, moving forward, nothing was truly lost. And as a new dawn broke, Deku knew whatever threats came next, whatever storms broke the sky, he would face them, not alone, not as a weapon, but as a hero. The hero the future needed. The world didn't end with a bang or even a scream. It ended with a ripple, a slow, growing vibration that made every clock in Japan shudder, every reflection flicker, every memory itch. In the weeks after Yue's victory in the public trial, life seemed to settle back to normal. Heroes rebuilt, civilians tried to believe in peace again, and Midoriya Izuku did everything he could to be the hero the world needed. But the cracks were spreading. Deku saw it in the smallest ways. His mother Inko smiled at him over breakfast, but for a split second her eyes turned blue instead of green, then flickered back. Iida tripped during training and stood, brushing off dust that wasn't there, a cut healing and unhealing in an impossible loop. Deku would walk across campus, and a door would appear on the wrong wall, only to vanish a moment later. The golden spiral on his palm burned every night, the ache dull but constant. And always, in the corners of his vision, he saw the edges of other timelines, shadows of friends and enemies both, watching him with the haunted looks of those who'd lost everything. Aizawa noticed the world out of sync, he said, dark circles under his eyes. We're patching holes, not mending fabric. I don't know how much longer this reality will hold. Deku nodded, not trusting himself to speak. The day the world broke for real was just an ordinary morning. Class 1A gathered for hero training, joking and bickering as always, trying to pretend they weren't living on the edge of the apocalypse. Uraraka grinned as she floated Kirishima over a puddle. Kaminari fried his own phone, earning another scolding from Yaoyorozu. For a moment, it almost felt like the old days. Then, with a pop like the world's biggest soap bubble, the sky tore open. 1,000 versions of the sun flickered above Tokyo. Shadows of impossible buildings hung in the air, twisting between realities. Hero alarms blared, not from the school, but from everywhere at once. In the distance, a golden tower rose, impossibly tall, spinning through timelines. At its peak stood Kyoko, the timebreaker, hands raised, her silver hair rippling in the paradox wind. A message echoed through every screen, every radio, every Quirk communicator in Japan. This is the end of all tomorrows. Heroes, you want to save your world? Come stop me, or watch as I erase time itself. The world went silent. Deku's heart stuttered. He looked at Bakugo, Todoroki, Uraraka, each one meeting his eyes, ready, afraid, determined. Aizawa's voice cut through the fear. Everyone move, strike teams to the city. Midoriya, you're with me. Deku grabbed his gear, the spiral burning like fire. Let's finish this. The journey into the city was a nightmare. Streets flickered, sometimes filled with cars, sometimes empty. Whole neighborhoods swapped places, looping through history. Samurai clashed with robots, schoolchildren aged and de-aged in a flash, the past and future grinding together like tectonic plates. Deku and his friends fought their way forward, rescuing civilians trapped in time storms, dodging villains from a dozen erased timelines, some familiar, some never seen before. At one intersection, they faced a villain Deku recognized only from history books, Destro, the founder of Meta Liberation. At another, they were attacked by an army of quirkless vigilantes wielding stolen tech. Bakugo grinned even through the chaos. I always wanted to punch history in the face. Uraraka and Iida led a group of kids to safety. Todoroki froze and burned open a path, his powers stretching to their limits. Every hero fought with everything they had, but the storm was endless. The golden tower loomed above, reality buckling around it. No matter how far they ran, it never seemed to get closer. Yuri clung to Deku's side, her horn glowing faintly. We can fix this, right? Deku forced a smile. We have to. They reached the base of the tower as the world began to stutter, time loops swallowing whole streets, friends freezing mid-motion, the sky fracturing into glass shards of memory. The air was thick with the cries of people reliving their worst moments over and over. At the tower's entrance, Timebreaker's followers stood guard, villains from every era, their faces flickering with a dozen different histories. Leading them was a version of Shigaraki who had never been stopped, his eyes dead and triumphant. Bakugo stepped forward, explosions crackling. You want to get to your boss, Deku? I'll handle this freak. Todoroki nodded. We'll hold the line, go. Uraraka squeezed Deku's hand. For all of us, win. Deku nodded, eyes burning, and raced into the tower, Iri at his side. Inside, time itself fell apart. The walls warped between glass and stone and metal. Doors opened to scenes from Deku's life, his first day at UA, the alley where he met All Might, the night he nearly lost Bakugo. In every room, he saw different versions of himself: a child still quirkless, a villain in green, a hero who had given up. Yuri squeezed his hand. Don't get lost. He nodded, pushing forward, the spiral on his palm pulsing. We keep moving forward. At the top of the tower, they found Kyoko. She stood at the center of a swirling vortex, her face wild with power and grief. A crown of golden gears hovered above her head, each one spinning at a different speed. She smiled, eyes full of tears. You made it, Izuku. I hoped you would. Deku's voice was steady. Let this go, Kyoko. You don't have to destroy everything. She laughed, broken. Don't you see? This world is already broken. Every time you or I rewound something, we killed a future. We made a graveyard of possibilities. Yuri stepped forward, voice trembling but brave. We can heal things. You don't have to do this alone. Kyoko's gaze softened at the sight of Yuri, but the storm raged on. I wanted to be a hero too, but all I became was a mistake. Deku took a breath. So did I, but heroes don't give up. We fight for the next tomorrow, no matter how many times we fall. The gears spun faster. Kyoko wept. I can't stop. If I let go, time collapses. There will be nothing left. Deku reached for her. Then don't let go alone. Let us help. Give me the power, Kyoko. Share the burden. She hesitated, the storm cracked, reality flickering at the seams. Then with a scream, she thrust her hands out, golden light slamming into Deku. The spiral on his palm blazed white-hot. For a moment, time stopped. Deku found himself floating in a sea of infinite timelines, each one a thread leading to a different world. He saw his friends, his mother, All Might, every face he'd ever loved or lost. He saw Kyoko, a little girl crying in a ruined street, clutching a broken watch. He reached for her, gentle. You're not alone. Let's move forward together. She sobbed and the gears shattered, light streaming into Deku's hand. The spiral changed, no longer a weapon, but a bridge, a promise. Time snapped back. Deku stood in the heart of the storm, Kyoko at his side, Yuri's hand in his. All around them, the world began to heal. Buildings reformed, skis cleared. The endless tomorrow began to resolve into one fragile present. Kyoko slumped, exhausted. I'm sorry, she whispered. Deku hugged her, letting his tears fall. It's okay, we'll find a new way. Down below, heroes cheered as the golden tower faded. Bakugo, Todoroki, Uraraka, all battered but alive, looked up at the clear sky and let themselves believe. Yuri glowed with gentle power, using her quirk to mend the last cracks in reality. Deku helped her, guiding, not forcing. Step by step, they put the world back together. As the sun rose, Tokyo was whole again. The aftermath was quiet, almost sacred. Kyoko surrendered, her power finally at peace. The commission wanted to lock her away, but Deku and Yuri argued for mercy. She saved us in the end, Yuri said. She just needed help. UA rebuilt, stronger than before. Class 1A graduated together, no one lost to time. At the ceremony, Aizawa gave Deku a rare, proud smile. You did more than save the world, Midoriya. You gave it hope. All Might watched, tears in his eyes. This is your era now, go live it. That night, Deku stood on the roof, looking out over a world that finally felt real. Bakugo joined him, silent as always. You did it, nerd, Bakugo said. You didn't just fix it, you made it better. Deku smiled, the spiral on his palm glowing soft and warm. Not just me, he said, all of us, that's what heroes do. They watched the stars as tomorrow finally, truly began. The world was stitched back together, but you could still see the seams if you looked closely. A week after the fall of Timebreaker, Tokyo was quieter than it had been in months. No more paradox storms, no more time ghosts haunting street corners, no more skyscrapers flickering between centuries. But everywhere people tested reality, staring at their hands, double-checking old photos, searching for lost hours in the corners of their homes. Heroes worked overtime, calming the city, answering questions, restoring faith, not just in themselves, but in the fabric of time. For Midoriya Izuku, there was peace but not rest. He woke early every day, haunted by the memory of 1,000 timelines. He would sometimes hear voices calling to him in the empty halls of UA, voices that belonged to classmates he never had, friends who'd never been born, enemies he'd only fought in broken echoes of other worlds. He'd grown used to the spiral on his palm, the warmth now less a brand and more a gentle weight, a responsibility. Yuri, too, felt the change. Her horn still glowed in the mornings, but she smiled more. Sometimes she and Deku would walk the gardens together, talking about the future, about the things they'd fixed and the things they could never fix. One night, as he lay in bed, Deku heard the voices again, faint but insistent, like the ticking of distant clocks. "Don't forget us." He sat up, heart racing. Out the window, the city was a sea of light. For the first time, he wondered if it was possible to save everyone, not just in his world, but in all the others. The next day brought a new mission, not a battle, not a disaster, but a memorial. The commission asked Deku, Eri, Bakugo, and Todoroki to represent UA at the Tower of Heroes, an event to remember the lost and the forgotten, those erased by paradox, those whose timelines would never return. Nezu explained, "We honor those who made sacrifices for a future they'll never see. You're the bridge between what was and what is, Midoriya." Deku swallowed, nerves jangling. What if I can't say the right thing? Aizawa met his gaze, steady and tired but proud. "There is no right thing, just speak from the heart." Bakugo grunted, "Don't get all weepy up there, nerd. Heroes inspire, they don't cry." Todoroki's smile was a rare thing. "Sometimes it's okay to cry, that's what reminds us we're still human." Eri slipped her hand into Deku's. "We'll do it together." The Tower of Heroes stood at the city's heart, new steel gleaming against the sky, banners fluttering with the names of the lost. Crowds gathered, families, survivors, heroes, and the ordinary people whose futures had been threatened by the storm. Deku stepped up to the podium, the spiral hidden under his glove. Cameras flashed, but all he could see were faces, real and imagined. He took a breath, voice steady. "I don't know if I can find the words for what we've been through. We lost so much, friends, family, even parts of ourselves. Sometimes I hear voices at night. I remember people who aren't here anymore, stories that never happened. But every day I wake up and I see the world moving forward." He looked to Eri, then to his friends. "We can't bring everyone back. Some things are gone forever, but we can honor them by living not just for ourselves, but for the futures they gave us." He held up his hand, showing the faint spiral. "This power, it isn't a miracle, it's a promise that we'll try again, that we'll keep fighting, that we won't let the past define the future." Tears slipped down his face, but he didn't hide them. "To the heroes who saved us, and to the ones who never got to be heroes, thank you, we won't forget you." The crowd stood, some crying, some cheering, all united for a heartbeat. Eri, standing beside him, whispered, "You did it, Deku." He nodded, heart aching but full. The days blurred into routine, but nothing would ever be quite routine again. Class 1A, now officially UA graduates, split up for internships, hero work, new studies. Bakugo got a high-profile spot under Best Jeanist and quickly made headlines by detonating a villain car with a single punch. Todoroki returned to his father's agency, determined to mend their bond. Uraraka joined Ryukyu, specializing in rescue and disaster relief. Deku's path was different. The commission offered him everything: money, a team, research labs, the promise of unlimited resources, but he turned it down. Instead, he worked with Eri and Aizawa, quietly helping the paradox-touched, people who'd been changed by the storm, some with doubled memories, others with pieces missing. With Recovery Girl's guidance, Deku learned to use his quirk not to rewrite, but to heal, helping people accept their new realities, finding peace with the past, and choosing hope for the future. Some nights he sat with the lost, listening to their stories, recording them in his notebook. "Even if you were from another world," he told one child, "you matter here, your story matters." In this, he became not just a hero, but a legend, a bridge between timelines, a guide for the world's lost children. But peace never lasted for long. Rumors surfaced of a new villain, a quirkless genius calling himself Afterimage, who claimed to have survived the paradox storm by sheer will. He began hacking into hero comms, leaking old secrets, promising revenge for the erased. Deku watched the headlines, worried. "Another one," he sighed, jotting notes in the margins of his battered journal. Bakugo called him that night, voice all fire and confidence. "Let them come, Deku. We survived the end of time. We'll handle anything else." Deku laughed, "Easy for you to say." Bakugo's voice softened just a little. "Just don't try to fix everything yourself again, idiot." Deku promised, but deep down, he knew that even with all he'd learned, the urge to help, no matter the cost, would always be there. One evening, Deku sat with Eri in the garden. The sky was clear, the stars brighter than ever before. Eri tugged at his sleeve. "Are you happy, Deku?" He thought about it, about pain and loss and hope, about every timeline he'd saved and everyone he'd lost. He thought about the people who would never come back and those who might still need him. "I think I am," he said softly, "not because everything is perfect, but because we're still here, because we get to try again. That's what heroes do." Eri leaned against him, and for a moment the world was still. Sometimes Deku dreamed of the echoes of timelines where he'd failed, where he'd given up, where villains ruled. In those dreams, the spiral burned, the world fell away, and he felt utterly alone. But every time he woke to sunlight, to friends, to a future worth fighting for. He knew the world would call on him again and that new threats would rise, each more dangerous than the last. But he also knew this: he would not walk that path alone. He would face every tomorrow, no matter how many times it tried to break him. And he would honor every echo of every hero that ever was or ever could be. It started with a rumor, the way all the worst stories do. Someone at a hero agency's side door swearing they seen a man with no shadow. Files gone from locked computers. Odd, looping phone calls from numbers that didn't exist last week. A pro hero was caught giving a press interview on live TV, while another version of him was caught on a traffic camera 5 miles away at the exact same moment. And all the while, a single name repeated through the hero network: Afterimage. Deku felt it first, like a ripple under his skin. He was walking through UA's rebuilt halls, talking with Aizawa about an outreach program for paradox-touched children, when every phone on campus went off at once. Sirens howled, messages blared in a dozen voices. All heroes, Afterimage has breached the Hero Commission mainframe. Citywide security compromised. All records are at risk. Engage emergency protocols. Shelter all time-affected individuals. Prepare for secondary incursions. Aizawa went still, eyes narrowing. "Get Eri and the kids to safety. Midoriya, you're with me." Deku nodded, the spiral on his palm flaring to life. In moments, UA was a hive of activity, students shepherded below ground, teachers coordinating with city officials, pro-heroes flooding the streets. But Deku's mind was elsewhere, already racing ahead. Afterimage, how did someone quirkless outplay the best? How did he survive the end of time? The answer was simple: not by strength, by being impossible to catch. Deku, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Aizawa arrived at Hero Commission HQ to a scene of surreal chaos. The lobby was empty, the lights flickering on every monitor. A single phrase blinked: "What if you were never here at all?" Security bots spun in loops, stuck in infinite restarts. Commission agents shouted down static-filled comms, arguing about memories that didn't line up. Some remembered the paradox storm, others swore it never happened. Bakugo grinned, cracking his knuckles. Finally, a villain who knows how to make an entrance. Todoroki's eyes were icy, or an exit. Aizawa led them to the data center, where the heart of Japan's hero information network pulsed. Doors flickered, open, closed, both at once. Sometimes the halls were crowded, sometimes empty, as if time couldn't decide what was real. There, sitting at the main console, was a man in a battered gray suit, hair wild, glasses cracked. He typed with the easy arrogance of someone who had already won. "Midoriya Izuku," he said without turning, voice calm and echoing. "Or should I say, All Might's shadow, the boy who rewrote fate." Bakugo stepped forward, explosions fizzing in his palms. "You got 5 seconds to get out from behind that desk before I send your head through a wall." Afterimage finally turned, smiling. His eyes were old, too old for his face, shimmering with the same broken glass glint Deku had seen in Timebreaker, but colder. "You all think you fixed the world," he said softly, "but what about those you left behind? What about the versions of me that died in the storm you caused?" Deku stepped forward, voice steady. "Who are you?" Afterimage's smile widened. "I'm everyone who got erased. I'm the leftovers of a world that never was. The paradox storm didn't destroy me, it multiplied me. I exist in the cracks. Every time you forget a name, lose a day, feel deja vu, I'm there." He pressed a key and every monitor in the building flashed with images. Heroes in defeat, villains triumphant, children lost to time. "I don't want revenge, I want recognition. You saved your world, but you erased mine. That's what all heroes do, isn't it? Save the ones they choose and damn the rest." Aizawa's voice was razor sharp. "You're here for more than words. What do you want?" Afterimage's eyes flickered. "A new beginning, or an ending if you'd rather. Tonight I'll broadcast every secret the Commission ever tried to bury, every quirk, every lie, every cover-up, every accident that rewrote the past. Heroes will fall. The world will know the cost of their peace." He stood, and Deku realized with a jolt that his outline shimmered, sometimes doubled, sometimes not there at all. Bakugo lunged, but Afterimage stepped aside, leaving a ghostly copy to take the blow. Todoroki fired a wall of ice, but it passed through, leaving frost on empty air. Deku tried to reach him with his quirk, but every time he focused, Afterimage simply wasn't there. He was always just outside the spiral's reach, like a memory that slipped away before you could grasp it. Afterimage smiled, sad. You can't erase what was never truly real, but you can choose what to remember. Tonight, the world will remember everything. With a flicker, he vanished. The building erupted into chaos. Monitors exploded with footage, hero failures, classified operations, even footage of Deku himself, his worst mistakes looping for the world to see. Aizawa barked orders, find him, shut it down. Bakugo and Todoroki tore through the building, disabling servers, but the data kept replicating, copying itself into every device in Japan. Deku closed his eyes, searching for the thread that would let him reach Afterimage, a moment, a place, a memory. He found it. He was back in the Paradox Storm, reliving the end of time. Around him, the world flickered, heroes and villains locked in battle, cities rising and falling. In the eye of the storm, a boy with broken glasses wept. Deku approached, gentle. You survived because you didn't give up. Afterimage looked at him, hollow. I survived because you didn't notice me. You saved everyone you could see. I was in the cracks. Deku knelt beside him. I'm sorry, I can't fix what I didn't know, but I can try to help now. Afterimage laughed, bitter. Help, I want to exist, Midoriya. I want the world to know my pain. Deku reached out, the spiral glowing. If you want to be remembered, let me remember you. Tell your story, let me share it. Afterimage hesitated, tears running down his face. Will it hurt? Deku nodded, a little, but it's better than being forgot. Afterimage closed his eyes. Okay. In the real world, the data stopped, every monitor freezing on a single image. Afterimage's face, not angry, but tired. Words scrolled beneath. Remember us, the lost, the erased. Heroes aren't perfect, but we can all be better. The lights flickered, then returned to normal. Aizawa found Deku kneeling in the server room, the spiral on his palm glowing brighter than ever. It's done, Deku said quietly. He just wanted to be seen. The fallout was messy but honest. The commission's secrets went public, but not in the way Afterimage planned. People grieved for the forgotten, the erased, the casualties of every Quirk disaster and every timeline gone wrong. Some were angry, some demanded justice. But many more reached out with kindness, determined not to repeat the mistakes of the past. Deku spoke on live TV, Eri at his side. We're not perfect, he said. We can't save everyone, but we can remember, we can be better for the lost and for each other. Afterimage was gone, but his echo lingered. Whenever someone forgot a name or wondered about a life they never lived or looked at a friend and felt a pang of déjà vu. Bakugo found Deku on the roof that night, the city sparkling below. You still blaming yourself, nerd? Deku shook his head. Not anymore. I'll always try to save everyone, but I know now I can't do it alone. Bakugo smirked. Good, because we're heroes, not gods. Next time let me punch the villain first. Deku laughed, the sound carrying on the wind. Todoroki joined them, silent content. Eri leaned on Deku's shoulder, humming. They stood together, watching the world they'd saved, and the one they still needed to heal. Echoes faded, but the promise remained. Heroes would fall, heroes would rise. But as long as someone remembered, no one was truly lost. The world healed in layers, like skin closing over an old wound. Some days, Tokyo was so ordinary it hurt. A city in motion, trains on time, children laughing as if no storm had ever swallowed their parents or rewritten their homes. Other days, reality caught its breath, and shadows lingered a little too long on the wall, and everyone remembered for just a heartbeat how close they'd come to the end of everything. For Midoriya Izuku, life was a string of ordinary miracles. He woke before dawn, jogged the quiet UA campus with Bakugo, drank 2 strong coffee, and checked on Eri as she made her way to school. When he looked in the mirror, he sometimes expected to see a stranger, a version of himself from a broken world. But it was always just him, a little older, a little wiser, with a golden spiral on his palm that never quite faded. He kept a notebook now, not for quirks or hero moves, but for memories. Each night, he wrote down the names of people he'd met, the stories he'd heard, even the dreams he'd lost in the Paradox Storm. He wrote about the ghosts, the erased, the time-shifted, and the friends who walked new paths. It was his way of honoring the echoes. Bakugo called it nerd therapy, but even he scribbled a name or two in the margins when no one was looking. UA itself was thriving. The Paradox Dutch had a classroom of their own, students with double memories, odd quirks, or the faint sense of belonging to two worlds at once. Aizawa taught them patience, Iri taught them hope, and Deku, now an assistant teacher as much as a hero, taught them how to keep moving forward no matter what timeline they came from. One bright Saturday, the world moved on. UA was hosting a new hero festival, this one dedicated not to competition but to unity. Students from all over the country gathered for food, music, and shared stories. Nezu gave a speech about diversity of futures. All Might posed for photos, looking smaller than he once was but more himself than ever. Deku wandered the festival grounds, watching Todoroki help a kid control their half-frozen lemonade, listening as Bakugo explained blast technique to a fan club of wide-eyed first-years. Uraraka floated Iri and 3 younger kids above the crowd, all shrieking with laughter. People asked Deku for pictures, for stories, sometimes for reassurance that this world would last. He always answered the same way, "It will, because we'll fight for it together." In the afternoon, the Paradox Dutch put on a show. A girl with 2 quirks juggled fire and water. A boy who remembered 3 birthdays at once recited a poem in different voices. The crowd cheered not just for the power, but for the courage it took to stand on a stage and say, "I am here, I matter." Deku felt a tear slip down his cheek as Iri took the mic, her voice small but strong. "We all got lost once, but the heroes found us, and now we're part of the story too." The world seemed to pause just for a moment to listen. But even on days like this, shadows never vanished completely. Late that night, Deku sat with Bakugo and Todoroki on the dorm roof. They watched the city, the lights stretching to the horizon, each one a story. Bakugo broke the silence first. "You ever think it's too quiet?" Todoroki shrugged. "We deserve a little quiet, don't we?" Deku nodded, tracing the spiral on his palm. "We do, but it won't last forever." Bakugo smirked. "Good, I'd get bored." They laughed, the sound honest and tired. Todoroki pointed to the stars. "We made it through hell. If another storm comes, we'll handle it." Deku's voice was gentle, "And if we can't fix it, then at least we'll face it together." Bakugo bumped his shoulder. "Damn right." A few weeks later, a new threat stirred, a villain with a quirk that turned memories to glass, fragile and dangerous. Deku's team responded in force, working with Paradox Dutch students and pro-heroes alike. The fight was hard, but this time no one stood alone. No one was left in the cracks. And when it was over, the city barely noticed. Life rolled on. People learned, forgot, remembered, and hoped. That was how the world healed, not by pretending nothing had happened, but by daring to keep living anyway. Graduation day came in a burst of rain and sunlight, as if the sky itself couldn't decide what timeline it belonged to. Deku stood on the stage, the golden spiral hidden under his glove, diploma in hand. He looked out over his friends, his teachers, and the new class of heroes rising behind him. Iri sat in the front row, grinning wide, Aizawa and Recovery Girl at her side. Nezu gave a speech, his eyes twinkling. "Every world ends, every world begins again. But heroes, real heroes, walk the thread between. Thank you, Class 1A and all the classes that never were, for reminding us to hope." Bakugo tossed his cap in the air, yelling, "Try and beat that, losers." Todoroki just smiled, quietly proud. Deku stepped forward to speak, his voice steady, clear. "I don't know what tomorrow will bring, maybe another storm, maybe just another sunrise, but whatever comes, we'll face it as heroes. We'll remember the lost, fight for the living, and believe in the world we're building. Again and again, that's our promise." The crowd erupted, the world moved on. That night, Deku sat alone under the stars. He let himself think about the timelines he'd lost, the friends he'd never know, the victories that slipped away, the futures erased for good reasons and bad. But he also thought of everything he had, the friends who stayed, the people he'd saved, the world he helped rebuild. The spiral on his palm was cool, almost silent, a reminder, not a curse. He closed his notebook, whispering the names of heroes and ghosts alike. Then he stood facing the dawn, heart wide open. Tomorrow waited. And so did he. And that's a wrap on today's story, What If Deku Had Time Reverse Quirk? I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I loved putting it together. If you did, don't forget to smash that like button, drop a comment sharing your thoughts or your own what if ideas, and subscribe if you haven't already. Your support really helps these stories reach even more MHA fans. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Plus Ultra.